All right, welcome everyone to our Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting of Monday, October 15th, 2018. I'm Katie Tang, chair of this committee. To my left is Supervisor Asha Safai, and I believe we'll be joined shortly by Supervisor Jane Kim. Our clerk is Erica Major, and from SFGov TV, we'd like to thank Andy Kawanami and Michael Baltazar. Madam Clerk, are there any announcements?
Yes, please make sure to silence all cell phones and electronic devices. Completed speaker cards and copies of any documents to be included as part of a file should be submitted to the clerk. Items acted upon today will appear on the October 23rd Board of Supervisors agenda unless otherwise stated.
Thank you very much. Can we please call item 1?
Yes, item number 1 is an ordinance ordering the summary street vacation of portions of Michigan Street, establishing new official sidewalks on Michigan Street by amending ordinance number 1061, accepting a public works order concerning the street vacation and establishment of new sidewalks, authorizing real property transfers, and waiving provisions of Administrative Code Chapter 23.
Thank you. We have Brad Benson here from the Port.
Good afternoon, Chair Tang, Supervisor Safai. I'm Brad Benson here representing Port Director Elaine Forbes on behalf of the Pier 70 project team, which includes Christine Maher, Development Project Manager, and Kevin Masuda, who's our infrastructure engineer. Today we're talking about an implementation step for the build-out of Pier 70 that was envisioned at part of your project approvals last fall for the Pier 70 28-acre site and the 35-acre special use district. So this slide represents the 35-acre special use district at Pier 70. What is shown in outlined in red is the 28-acre site that will be developed by a subsidiary of Forest City. We're here today about the box in blue, which is the future Parcel K North. It's one of the first sites that will be sold for market rate housing development at Pier 70, and it generates much needed proceeds to pay for project entitlement costs. Specifically, we're here today to vacate a 12-foot excess strip of Michigan Street, which would remove the street designation, allow for a larger development parcel, and pave the way for a new street and sidewalk. So on the left, before the street vacation, we have an extra wide Michigan Street, which will be a one block street off of 20th Street with Parcel K North on one side and the historic core, buildings 113 through 116, on the right. After the street vacation and a subsequent action by the board to approve a transfer map, Michigan Street will be narrowed. Part of it will be conjoined with Parcel K North through the transfer map, and part of it will be added to the historic core. There's actually a historic building that encroaches a little bit out into the street today. Following, if this committee recommends the street vacation ordinance and the board approves it, after that action, a final transfer map would come to the Board of Supervisors for your approval. And then sale of Parcel K North for market rate housing development consistent with the Pier 70 Special Use District will also come to the Board of Supervisors for your consideration. So we're at October 15th. In December, the street vacation ordinance would become effective. In January, the Board of Supervisors would consider the Parcel K North transaction, and in February, the transaction would close. And that concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. The diagrams were very helpful. And colleagues, any questions or comments? Okay. Nope. Seeing none, then we're going to open up item 1 to public comment. Any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Okay. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Colleagues, can we get a motion on item 1?
Move it forward with recommendation to the full board.
Okay. So we'll move it forward to the full board with positive recommendation without objection. Thank you. Item 2, please.
Item number 2 is an ordinance authorizing various agreements in connection of city solar projects with Pacific Gas and Electric Company.
Thank you. We have representatives from the PUC here today, I believe.
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Jamie Seidel. I'm from the Distributed Energy Resources Projects team at the SFPUC Power Enterprise. I believe you have my presentation in your packet. I can go through it if you'd like me to, or jump to questions.
Sure, why don't you go through the presentation? Thank you.
So the way it is now, SFPUC has owned solar generation, and we have over 3 megawatts of solar electric projects throughout the city, 23 project locations, and all of those systems have interconnection agreements with PG&E in order to energize the system and to connect to their grid. The board has historically approved those agreements, and we were given ongoing authority to enter into those agreements, Form 79973 with PG&E, with Ordinance 14414 several years ago. And so needs have changed for us. There are two main items that have changed. One, our customers are starting to install their own solar generation as a result of the Better Roof Ordinance. And additionally, SFPUC is operating under a different agreement with PG&E under the wholesale distribution tariff. So we're coming here today asking for authority to sign two different agreements with PG&E under the customer-owned solar generation. There'll be two different forms, one for our customer to sign, Form 79988, and then a form that PUC would sign, the customer generation agreement 79992. And then in addition to that, we're asking for authority to sign the wholesale distribution tariff agreements for our own solar generation. And we have several upcoming projects that would fall underneath that with the Burton High School and Opera House. So let me see. So that's basically it. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. And I know that the other piece of the legislation, I think we might have, I don't know if you just touched upon it or if it was skipped over very quickly, but just the delegation of authority to the other departments.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, so in addition, additional departments we expect installing their own solar over the next few years. So Rec and Park, Police Department, Airport, various other departments, we expect to install their own solar, so they would need to sign the same agreements. So the first test case would be SFMTA, where they have a system coming online shortly.
Okay, so, all right, so just to confirm, we are delegating our Board of Supervisors authority under the charter to allow the MTA, PUC, and other city departments to enter into these interconnection agreements with PG&E that exceed 10 years. And then I have seen this type of waiver frequently before, but just to point it out that we are waiving some of the competitive bidding, first source hiring, and some other requirements, just given that they are not feasible.
Yeah, I guess they wouldn't apply since they're not competitively bid the projects.
Okay, so, all right, colleagues, do we have any questions, comments on this item? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, then we'll go to public comment on item 2. Any members of the public who'd like to speak on this item, please come on up. Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. All right, colleagues, any recommendation for item 2?
Move forward with recommendation to the full board.
Okay, and we'll do that without objection. Thank you very much. Item 3, please.
Item number 3 is an ordinance amending ordinance number 1061 entitled Regulating the Width of Sidewalks to change the official sidewalk width of certain locations fronting Assessor's Block, parcel block number 3718, and adopting and affirming appropriate findings.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to sponsor Supervisor Kim.
Thank you so much. This is actually just a simple work item. Sorry, I'm pulling up my points. My apologies. I actually don't have my points before me, but this was a request of the project sponsor at 250 Howard, and it's just to clean up language around the sidewalk with changes. Sorry, I don't have the actual notes in front of me.
Okay. From my understanding from reading it, just improving pedestrian safety and mid-block pedestrian access for this project.
Yes.
And was part of the Transit Center District Plan.
Yeah, the project is 250 Howard Street Park Tower. It memorializes the sidewalk reconstruction of portions of Beale, Howard, Main, and Mission Street, and it is to ensure that all of the streets will be widened except for Mission Street, which will remain the same current width. So this is a request that our office has been working on with the Clark John Buck Company to complete construction of the sidewalk and also to get the pedestrian traffic back to normal and get tenants into the building. They submitted their sidewalk legislation in September of 2015 and received an at-risk street improvement permit application on May 9th of 2017. So it's been about 3 years that this project has been waiting to get their sidewalk legislation approved. They're also going to get their temporary certificates of occupancy on October 24th, 2018. We do have Allison Owens here, who is representing the project sponsor, if we have any questions for the John Buck Company.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Kim. Colleagues, any questions, comments? It seems pretty straightforward to me. So item 3, let's open that up to public comment then. Any members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. Colleagues, can we get a motion on item 3?
A motion to move item 3 with recommendation to the full board with recommendation.
Thank you, and we'll do that without objection. All right, so let's go to items 4 and 5 together, please.
Item number 4 is a resolution declaring the intention of the Board of Supervisors to order the vacation of streets and an easement in the Sunnydale Hope SF project site and setting the hearing date for all persons interested in the proposed vacation of said public right-of-way. And item number 5 is an ordinance ordering the vacation of streets and an easement in the Sunnydale Hope SF project site, reserving various easement rights in favor of the city, authorizing the city to quitclaim its interest in the vacation areas, including the transmittal of the ordinance from the clerk of the board.
Thank you. I believe we have Philip Wong here from Office of Economic and Workforce Development.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I would like to invite Sophia Kittler for President Cohen's office to introduce an amendment for your consideration.
Would you like to talk about the items first before the amendment in general?
Yes, apologies for that, Chair Tang. What we have before supervisors today is a consideration of a major street vacation that would allow for a start of construction of this 50-acre public housing revitalization project in May of next year. I think when we have the presentation, we'll go over some of the main objectives and public benefits of the legislation, and then I'm going to allow Rami Dare, the housing developing lead from the co-development team, Mercy Housing, to go into more detail about the project site and also the intent of the legislation. And then, of course, representatives from Public Works, the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, and myself representing the Office of Economic and Workforce Development are available for any questions that may arise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Tang, Supervisor Safai, and Kim. I'm here today on President Cohen's behalf as the sponsor of this legislation. As Philip mentioned, this is a necessary street vacation that will allow us to move forward with the Sunnydale Hope SF revitalization and begin construction. President Cohen introduced this resolution and the ordinance before you last month on September 4th. And today I would like to present an amendment that we seek your support on. I have copies here, and I will bring one for the clerk, that memorializes a future SF Public Utilities Commission action at their meeting on the December 11th, 2018 meeting, which will allow for public utility easements to be determined surplus and vacated, and then following that, staff will be available from Public Works, Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, and OEWD to answer any questions. These are for the colleagues, and these are for you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rami Darren. I'm from Mercy Housing California, representing the master development team of Related California and Mercy Housing California on the Sunnydale development. I'm going to give you a quick presentation. Just to refresh your memories, Sunnydale Hope SF is the revitalization of the existing 50-acre Sunnydale Velasco public housing site into a new development with all new housing, over 1,700 units of affordable and moderate income housing, 60% of which are affordable, including replacement units for existing households. The other public benefits of this development will be that we'll be creating an all-new street and utility infrastructure grid, new open spaces to serve the wider community, a new community center, and a new separate space with an additional 30,000 square foot of neighborhood space in mixed-use buildings. We started construction, our first development within the master plan in January on an infill site that we purchased across the street from the development, and we are now in pre-development and permitting for Block 6 affordable housing development and the associated infrastructure of 5 acres. We are hoping to start the construction of the infrastructure portion next spring, summer, and then follow that immediately with the construction of Block 6. So we are requesting the Board of Supervisors approval for a master street vacation ordinance that would allow us to come at this time in the next couple months for one-time Board of Supervisors approval to vacate all existing rights-of-way within the Sunnydale development or master plan area. And then as we embark on the phases of the development, of which there are about 10, the DPW director would be authorized to review each phase of development and allow us to enact the vacation of those rights-of-way within those phases. The conditions that we would have to meet would be reviewed by the DPW director. We're also seeking the city's authority to allow for the necessary conveyance of those vacated rights-of-way to the San Francisco Housing Authority so that the Housing Authority can then execute short-term or long-term leases for us to be able to develop those sites with all new infrastructure or new housing or other community benefits. There is also an amendment, as Sophia mentioned, that would allow us to have the SFPUC maintain existing public utility easements within the vacated rights-of-way so that this would give us time to build new infrastructure, allow the city to test and accept that infrastructure while we're still operating the existing infrastructure in the rights-of-way, and then those older utilities would be abandoned after the new infrastructure is accepted. So on the left diagram, you can see how we have divided the development site into phases and how the master street vacation ordinance would allow us to get a one-time approval and then come back through the city DPW director to obtain approval for vacating rights-of-way according to these phases. On the right side, you see a diagram that shows how there will be an all-new street realignment and street grid overlaid on top of the existing site. So the schedule is that we are here today for the committee's approval, and then we're intending to go to the Board of Supervisors next week for the resolution of intent. We will go to the SFPUC Commission for approval in December, then come back to the committee in January and finish the process through the Board of Supervisors in January. We're available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions or comments?
I'm sorry, could you just go back to the
Supervisor
last
Kim?
slide? Because that was my question, was on the expected timeline for Sunnydale Hope SF.
Yeah, this just shows the legislation. Were you asking me
schedule.
more about the other? Okay, so we started construction on Parcel Q, which is not shown here on these diagrams, but we bought a site across the street. It's on the corner of Hahn and Sunnydale. That construction is 55 affordable units, including replacement units for existing households, and we're targeting to complete that in August of next year. We are currently working on the design and permitting of the next phase, which on this diagram is the kind of red and then the green above that. We actually combined 2 subphases into one phase. So that is our Block 6 affordable development and the 5 acres of infrastructure. And so we're actually working with the Housing Authority to vacate that area of existing residents. Those residents are moving to other vacancies within Sunnydale right now. We're hoping to create a site by the end of November, beginning of December, and then conduct the building demolition in that area, and then follow that with, in May, actual new construction of street and utility infrastructure. We'll be back before the Board of Supervisors for that public improvement agreement and other actions like the map for that phase. So we'll be able to start that construction in May and then follow that with the vertical Block 6 construction in August of 2019.
And what is the expected completion date for the vertical construction of Block 6?
February of 2021. It's a large development,
wow.
so yeah.
Wow. And during that time period, sorry, this is a project I'm not as familiar with, between 2019 and 2021, those residents will be at alternate units for about 2 weeks.
They will continue to live in the current vacancies in Sunnydale, and then we've organized the site into groups to figure out who would move into Parcel Q and who would be offered a unit in Block 6.
And Parcel Q is the building that will be completed in August. That's 100%
right.
affordable housing. And
That's
Block
correct.
6 is the mixed income housing, where 60% of the units are affordable.
Block 6 is actually 100% affordable. So it's going to be all affordable, and it'll be a mix of
many units?
primarily replacement units for Sunnydale households, and then there'll be some general affordable units as well.
How many units on Block 6 and on Q, Parcel Q?
So Parcel Q is 55 units in total, and Block 6 is 167 units in total.
Okay. And then the site that you said was mixed income, 60%.
Sorry, I think I spoke too fast. So the whole development is mixed income. So the way we've designed our housing blocks is we actually have 14 affordable developments or affordable blocks. So when we say affordable, that basically means Mercy related are the co-developers, co-owners, your typical tax credit affordable development. And it just includes a substantial percentage that are replacement units for Sunnydale households. And then the next block next door might be a moderate income development that would be developed by another developer, but we will assist the Housing Authority in identifying those developers.
When you say moderate income, what do you mean?
What's the range? We haven't done a study in a little bit, but it could range anywhere from 60% to 120 or 130% AMI. We would need to figure that out in partnership with the city when we get to those sites.
And there will be some market rate units here.
I'm sorry, say again?
There will be some market rate units
Yes.
as well, right?
Right.
And when will that get phased in?
We actually, you could probably see it a little bit on the diagram on the left there to the right of the red area. There is going to be a market rate or moderate income site.
SF TV, if they can put that back. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So if you look at where the red area is on the right side, that's half of our first development phase. To the right of it, you'll see like a small rectangle. That's actually going to be a new site that's created through the vacation of a segment of Blythedale, and that will be a moderate income or market rate site that will have frontage on Hahn Street. And we think that'll support about 8 units.
Only 8?
Yeah, because it's a small infill site.
Is this the pink?
It's yellow, I think.
That very, very tiny.
The very small one. That's our very first market rate site.
Okay, so when you say it's 60%, affordable, you mean throughout the entire project. Where is the 40% that will be unrestricted?
It'll be located in different blocks. So the majority of the blocks actually, so if you look at the diagram on the right side, it's a little hard to see, but you can start to see some of the outlines of the new housing blocks. And so 13 of those are affordable, and then the rest, then there are 4 open space blocks and 1 community center block, and then the rest are the market rate / moderate income blocks.
And how many is that, and where are they located?
I don't have a diagram here, but we've tried to intersperse them throughout the site.
Okay, because I mean, the basic concept of HOPE, which started in Chicago, was to actually have market rate, moderate, and low-income units together. And my understanding in Chicago is that they were mixed within the same buildings.
Right. So we're not able to do that here in California because of the tax credit program structure.
The tax credit program is different here in California
Right.
than, okay, in Illinois. Okay, well, I'm just curious what it looks like in terms of the mix, like how we're mixing the units, even if they can't be within the same building envelope. I'm curious to see on this map how it would be mixed. But there will be some units that are not restricted at all. When you say moderate income, that there are restrictions placed there.
No, so sorry. It means that there aren't restrictions. It's just we anticipate, given the area,
market.
that they would likely
Okay.
be moderate
I think
income.
it's really important that then you state that those are market rate units, and that the market may make them naturally middle income or moderately income. But I think that it's very misleading to tell us that you're building moderate income units when they're really unrestricted units. And I think it's fine. I think it's fine to state that that's what we're building, because the whole concept of Hope and Hope SF is that you have mixed income communities. But I just wouldn't state that they're moderate income unless they're deed restricted.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Safai?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. So you said that what role will the Housing Authority play? I understand that there's going to be a quick claim of interest on the vacation of the streets in the areas. So what to the Housing Authority? So what role is the Housing Authority? I know that the major goal of this proposal is to these are going to be Mercy is going to be essentially managing the property for the remainder of the development. Is that correct?
Right. So the Housing Authority, as you know, owns the improvements, the buildings, and the land that makes up Sunnydale Velasco Public Housing. So their role basically is to provide oversight to make sure that we're providing the public benefits. We have a master development agreement with them that in some ways copies the development agreement we have with the city. But their role would be basically to maintain ownership of the land underneath the affordable housing developments, and we would execute a long-term lease, very similar to the MOCD and the OCI structure. So the Housing Authority would maintain ownership of that land, execute a long-term lease with us so that we could build new affordable housing on that land. In regards to the market rate sites, we would be assisting the Housing Authority in selling those market rate sites to interested developers for development of market rate housing. And so they would no longer own those sites. And they would also, prior to that, would also be executing a short-term ground lease with us so that we would be able to construct the new streets and utilities on a certain area of land. And then once the streets and utilities are constructed in a given phase and accepted by the city, then the Housing Authority would convey that new right-of-way to the city.
No, I understand all that. What I'm asking is, why are we, the city, quit claiming our interests in the vacated areas to the Housing Authority?
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to see if I can find a diagram, because when the area is vacated, it's going to create a portion of the development site that we need to combine with the rest of the area to create one parcel for development of Block 6, for example. So what's not really clear on these diagrams is if you imagine we have a segment of the existing Blythedale right-of-way coming, and it's literally sitting on the Block 6 development site. We need that portion to be vacated because we're actually going to be building a new set of streets to serve that Block 6 and other portions of the area. So we need that vacated right-of-way to be quitclaim deed by the city to the Housing Authority, so then it can become part of the Block 6 site, and then the Housing Authority can then lease that site to us for development.
Okay. So who's going to be, is the city still going to be responsible and have ownership and responsibility over the streets and the sidewalks?
Once they're vacated, no.
So the city will no longer have any control over the streets and the sidewalks in this proposal?
Once the DPW director approves a vacation within a phase.
No, I understand the vacation for the necessary land for the development, but I don't understand the vacation of the streets and the sidewalks. What's the necessity for that, for this development to go forward?
So the existing rights-of-way, it's a little hard to see, but the diagram on the right, there's like a certain gray area that shows the existing rights-of-way. There's about 4 within the Sunnydale site. They actually under our master plan would become new housing sites or.
I get it. I understand you need some area that's under the city's right of way to build on. But what is the need for the city to vacate its interests over the streets and the sidewalks? You don't need those for the purpose of this development.
Since I'm not successful in answering your question, we'll have
Okay.
Javier come up.
Thank you.
Hello, Javier Rivera from Public Works. So basically what's happening is that the development will go over what are currently existing streets. So there'll be structures there. Those streets go away. They will create new streets. Those streets will be offered for dedication later on in the future, which the city will have control over those streets like any other street in the city.
So the city will have the control over the new streets and sidewalks.
At the end of the day, yes, they will. Yes, sir.
That's what I was trying to determine. Because if the proposal was that the city was not going to have control and authority over the streets and the sidewalks, I don't support that.
No, they will not be private streets in this case. They will have to be developed. They'll have to go through the warranty period, and they will be offered for dedication to the city at the end of the day, just like any other development that creates new streets, new right-of-way.
So is that spelled out in this resolution? That the new streets will be dedicated, will be handed back to the city?
You know, not to my recollection, I don't think, but I do believe there's a development agreement that does spell this whole plan out.
I understand, but I
the new
wouldn't
thing.
want this resolution to conflict with that development agreement. I think it would be helpful to say clearly, we're vacating for the purposes of development, which I get. That makes a lot of sense. But it should state clearly that the streets and sidewalks are going to come back. The new streets and sidewalks that are constructed will come back to under the purview of the city.
Okay, we could make those updates. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the deputy city attorney can answer this, but I do see on page 1 of the resolution, lines 17 through 20, it says that this street vacation procedure shall be in accordance with the applicable provisions of California Streets and Highway Code and such rules and conditions as adopted by the Board of Supervisors. In that section, does that essentially refer to the DA then?
Deputy City Attorney John Givner, I'm not sure. It sounds like what Supervisor Safaye is going for is an explicit mention of the plan going forward in the DA. I think what might make sense as an approach here is to pass the resolution, which just sets out the timeline for a future committee of the whole to consider the ordinance. The ordinance has more detail. On January 15th, when the board considers the ordinance at its committee of the whole, perhaps then you could amend in a new section explaining the provisions in the DA regarding the streets.
I'm fine with that. I mean, because I see on page 2, line 5, it says it's necessary for the improvements. We're vacating the streets. I'm just, from having worked at DPW and been in the role as supervisor now when we're trying to deal with streets, right? And we had a situation in this chamber where there were some private streets that were not under the purview of DPW, and it caused a lot of confusion and a lot of problems. So I would not want there to be any confusion going forward that the city is responsible for maintaining the streets, has ownership over the streets and sidewalks, so on and so forth.
Yes, I think there's sufficient time to add it to the ordinance after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
And I saw that Supervisor Cohen's office was still here, so I think that they hear that loud and clear, and the ordinance will come in January at the committee of the whole. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any other further questions or comments on these 2 items? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to go to public comment on items 4 and 5. Any members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, public comment on items 4 and 5 are closed. And it sounds like we are going to send out item 4 to the full board for the October 23rd board meeting, but then the ordinance, which is item 5, will have to send out without recommendation pending a January 2019 hearing committee of the whole at the Board of Supervisors. So,
Are you going to take a motion on the amendments that were offered?
oh, yes. And so the amendments, as was stated by Supervisor Cohen's office earlier, apply to both, no, it's just the ordinance, I believe.
And the
correct?
resolution would have the committee of the whole date inserted into the blank?
Okay, so we'll insert the committee of the whole date for item 4, and for item 5, it would be the amendments as previously stated. Can we get a motion on those two?
Has some,
Okay, so we'll adopt the amendments to both items as stated, and then, let's see, motion to send item 4 out to the full board. Can that be with or without? With positive recommendation?
sorry. Sure.
We'll do that without objection. Item 5 to the full board without recommendation,
Yes.
pending
To-
committee of the whole.
I'm sorry, to the January date?
To the
January
January 15th, 2019 date, yes. Okay, we'll do that without objection. All right, thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, item 6, please.
Item number 6 is an ordinance amending the health code to comprehensively revise the regulation of massage practitioners, massage establishments, massage out-call services, and sole practitioner massage establishments.
Thank you very much. So I am sponsoring this item on behalf of the Department of Public Health, and they will be up here to present on the item. But over the years, our Department of Public Health, I definitely want to commend them for trying their very best to get a handle on the massage program here in San Francisco, especially in the backdrop of other state massage regulations. And so I think over the years, the department has amassed a couple of really largely technical cleanups for our massage program here in San Francisco. So with that, I'd like to bring up Jennifer Calwart from DPH.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Calloward. I'm the manager of the massage program at the health department. We are cleaning up Article 29, striking out some old code, clarifying our directors' hearing procedures, clarifying some language on transfer of ownership. In addition, we require background checks by the San Francisco Police Department. Our department is looking into do this as well, so we've added some language about what that would look like. In addition, we are proposing that the health department no longer permit massage practitioners have this sunset. The California Massage Therapy Council is the primary permitting agency for all massage practitioners. So we would be sunsetting that at the end of the year. In addition, we will be changing a little bit of the enforcement language to eliminate loopholes, which has allowed illegitimate massage establishments to continue operating, going from one neighborhood to the next. There are instances where illegitimate massage establishments refuse to discontinue commercial sex at their facility. Therefore, language adding in enforcement by the city attorney was also added. We recognize that the massage practitioners may be victims, and the ordinance places the burden of compliance on the permit holder, the business owner. We have partnered with the Community Health Equity and Promotions Branch to develop a program for massage practitioners found to be in violation of the article and help assist the practitioners with resources around housing, legal assistance, and possibly finding other jobs and employment. Many practitioners have gone through this program, and we would actually like to see this program grow. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. And before you go, we did have some amendments that we would like to make.
Thank you.
And they're highlighted on pages 1, 8, 20, and 24, which committee members should have in front of them. But one of them came up in light of conversations from some of the community stakeholders. And under the fourth item that we have in this legislation, it authorizes the Director of Public Health to deny a massage establishment permit to an applicant who has been convicted of any offense related to prostitution or solicitation of prostitution. And the amendment we're adding today adds a clause to say, unless the conviction was vacated based on a showing that the individual was a victim of human trafficking, because certainly we don't want to further punish those who have been victims of human trafficking. So that's the same on page 1 and 8 and 20. And then on page 24, there was an amendment regarding the language in terms of what hotline phone numbers for notices are offered, and that's just to, I believe, align with the city's language access ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions or comments on this item? Supervisor Kim?
I just want to ask about instances where convictions are vacated or not. So are there instances where the individual is a victim but the conviction is not vacated?
I personally can't speak to that. I don't know if the department has any information that they're able to share.
Yeah, as far as I know, we haven't had anybody apply for a permit that has been in that situation, so I'm uncertain. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so seeing no other questions or comments at this time, we'll go to public comment then on item 6. So if you're here for item 6, please come on up. Either microphone's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Caesar, and I'm here to oppose this ordinance. Let me just get organized. I believe this ordinance still negatively harms sex workers, those that work in sex work voluntarily as an occupation, and we're also perpetuating the stigma towards them as well. Okay. So as I mentioned, it could be consensual or it could not be, and so I agree that we must do more to eliminate forced sex work and workers from being exploited in every industry. One step we could take was in 2008 we had Proposition K that got 40% of the votes that would have stopped enforcement of prostitution laws in San Francisco. Next, at the root of sex trafficking are political, social, and economic forces. For example, in our current state of emergency with homelessness, some turn to survival sex work, having sex in exchange for shelter. We have a chance this year to protect the homeless residents by supporting Proposition C. Not having shelter makes our homeless residents extremely vulnerable to sex trafficking. We must work with state lawmakers to decriminalize and legalize prostitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public who wish to speak on item 6, please come on up.
Hi, my name's Leah. I'm speaking on behalf of St. James Infirmary. St. James Infirmary is located in the Tenderloin District. It's a peer-based occupational health and safety clinic ran for and by sex workers, including everyone in the sex industry and people who trade sex. The statement, we believe that records of prostitution and sexual acts in businesses are not grounds for workers to fall deeper into poverty by depriving them of an accessible, skilled trade. These workers are often migrant workers of color and have limited job opportunities. The workplace regulations enforced in this bill create conditions in which massage practitioners will be intensely profiled on the basis of their assumed engagement in unlawful activity and gives regulatory agencies more power and means to revoke permits, issue harsher fines, and shut down businesses. As a community organization that prioritizes the safety of those who trade sex, we believe that massage practitioners will be greatly harmed by this ordinance. These regulations will not decrease trading sex in massage businesses. In order to address human trafficking, people must have access to resources that can pull them out of poverty. Increasing regulations that restrict this opportunity will force the trade underground and only increases situations that are more susceptible to trafficking and exploitation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public, please come on up.
I'd like to speak strongly against this ordinance. I'm from the U.S. Prostitutes Collective, and we've put together some points. The city's been cracking down and harassing massage parlors for the last 20 years. They haven't gone away. And this is just another attempt to put a stranglehold on them by any means necessary to shut them down. We and others are very concerned about the dire impact that this will have on the women working in the parlors. We don't feel like that is addressed sufficiently. Many are mothers working to support children, families. What's going to happen to their livelihood? This is their means of surviving. How will they support their kids when these massage parlors are closed down, which is obviously what you're planning to do? The crackdown will push, as has been said, the industry further underground, making women more vulnerable to violence and less likely to come forward to the police to report rape against them. And we wonder why, at this time of heightened attacks against immigrants, why are the supervisors proposing a further attack on immigrants that we know will lead to more criminalization, more harassment, and what will happen to the women? Are more women going to be arrested and face deportation as a result of this? It's a disaster. And many see this as part of the ongoing gentrification policies that are pushing low income and people of color out of the city. This is going to be the impact of the ordinance. So please vote against it. This is going backwards, not forwards.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to comment on item 6? Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. I want to thank all the members who came out to speak on this item. However, I think that there is some confusion around what this ordinance is trying to achieve. A large part of it is actually conforming our local laws with state law. So, for example, trying to get DPH out of issuing individual massage practitioner certifications because the state will be doing that. I think that is something that, again, should not be harming massage therapists. There are other requirements here, such as requiring applicants to submit to DPH a floor plan of the proposed business and proof of workers' compensation coverage. That's pretty typical for many types of businesses, not just massage. Just clarifying the permitting process. Again, I think that's a good thing that we want to provide clarity to people who are applying for these permits. Anywhere where we touch upon convictions, we have really tried, and over the years, not just in this legislation, really get away from further punishing any potential victims of whether it's human trafficking, sex trafficking, or whatnot. Really, it's about what kind of a business certification are you holding and how are we holding you to the standards of that business. We are not here to pass judgment on sex work, consensual or not. This is about the fact that if you are getting a land use approval and in conjunction a DPH health permit for massage, that massage is the use that is going on, that is the practice that's happening in the business. Just like when we issue permits for a small business that's selling clothing, for example, a retail use, that is what is supposed to be sold in that business versus something else. So we are not here to try to punish sex workers. Absolutely not. This is where if you are performing massage as your business is supposed to be doing, really these the pieces of legislation that we've passed over the years and today should not actually affect you. And so again, I just wanted to provide that clarification. We're very, very mindful, and in fact, that's why we have the amendment here today, of those people who might be victims of sex trafficking or human trafficking. The other thing is that over the years, the Department of Public Health has actually started a program, as Jennifer mentioned, to try to help people who might want to, in fact, seek either maybe they want to continue in the massage industry, maybe they want other skill sets for other jobs, and they have certainly tried to help them with that. And I think that's a positive program that we should continue so that people can be independent and have the skill sets they need to succeed. So again, I just want to emphasize that these are just simply items that Department of Public Health staff came across over the years, felt that they need to clarify things, conform our local laws with state law. This is not at all to, again, pass judgment or do anything further around sex work. So colleagues, with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. I think that this is, as you said, this is a real issue. I mean, San Francisco is a targeted area for sex trafficking. I understand the characterization that there are immigrant, and in particular immigrant women that are involved in consensual sex in this industry, but at the same time, there is a significant number of people that are impacted by sex trafficking in this trade at no choice of their own and are duped into offerings to come to the United States to do many different things that are not related to this industry at all, and are trapped because they are immigrant, undocumented women. And so I commend Supervisor Tang for putting this forward. I think this is about a land use practice, as she said. This is about tightening the rules. And if something is a massage parlor, that's what it's been designated to do. This is also about people that are consistently involved in, have been involved in criminal activity that is then shut down, and then they refuse to stop practicing in that manner. And so I commend Supervisor Tang for her tightening up of these rules and working with the Department of Public Health and the community and the victims of these crimes as well. And I know you spent a lot of time working overall on this piece of legislation. So thank you, and please add me as a co-sponsor.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Safai. So with that, colleagues, if we can get first a motion on the amendment and then on the overall amended item.
Motion to approve the amendment as proposed.
Okay, so amendment's adopted. And then on the underlying item as amended. Move forward with recommendation to the full board. Thank you, and we'll do that without objection. All right, Madam Clerk, item 7, please.
Item number 8.
8?
7?
7. Sorry. Madam Chair.
Item number 7 is an ordinance amending the planning code to provide the temporary closure of liquor store in the North Beach Neighborhood Commercial District as a result of a fire is not an abandonment of such use, and the relocation of such use to another location in North Beach does not require a new conditional use permit.
Thank you, and we're here joined by Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Chair Tang. Colleagues, thank you for scheduling this item today. It is a very simple ordinance that is aimed at allowing one of the displaced businesses from the March 17th fire in North Beach to temporarily relocate without the benefit of a conditional use while that building is being rebuilt. And insofar as liquor stores require conditional use, because this is a temporary use, this legislation would allow them to temporarily relocate around the corner on Powell Street. And this was heard by the Planning Commission October the 4th. They had some small technical amendments, which the Deputy City Attorney who wrote this was not able to incorporate, but I understand that she is back and will be able to have those technical amendments that are not substantive for introduction at the board tomorrow, should the committee forward it out as a committee report. And I know that Diego Sanchez is here from the Department of City Planning.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Diego Sanchez with San Francisco Planning Department. As Supervisor Peskin has said, the Planning Commission heard this item on October 4th. The Commission was very much in support of this ordinance and sees it as a common sense way to maintain a long-standing character-contributing business within the North Beach neighborhood. Also, as Supervisor Peskin has said, they are proposing a few technical amendments, and those will be found in your packet. And that concludes my presentation. I am here for any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any members of the public who wish to comment on item 7, please come on up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Elberling. Well, as a almost 50-year customer of Coit Liquors in North Beach, I can tell you that its loss to the fire some months ago was a terrible blow, and it has always been a real mainstay of the neighborhood. A very friendly place, great selection of hard-to-find things, and I certainly would urge you to support this so they can keep going for another 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Teresa Flandrick, also of North Beach. I've not been going to Coit Liquor for 50 years, but for a good portion of that. So I'm really glad that Supervisor Peskin has actually brought this up. I ask you to support it. I think it's a great idea, and Coit Liquor folks are part of the community, so it's not just liquor. It is the owner and the people that work there, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to comment on item 7? Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. Supervisor Peskin?
Madam Chair, colleagues, if you have no questions, I would respectfully request that this be forwarded to the full board with recommendation as a committee report for hearing tomorrow, so that Coit Liquors can open up as expeditiously as possible.
All right, and we'll do that without objection as a committee report. All right, item 8, please.
Item number 8 is a resolution urging Bay Area Rapid Transit, or BART, to add a bus node at the 24th Street BART station in San Francisco during the Transbay Tube seismic retrofit.
Thank you. And do we have someone from Supervisor Ronen's office here today? Okay, let's skip over this item for now because I thought someone was going to come and speak on this. So let's go to items 9 through 13 together.
Item number 9 is an ordinance amending the general plan by adding Central South of Market, or SOMA, area plan, making conforming amendments and making appropriate findings. Item number 10 is an ordinance amending the zoning map of the planning code to create the Central South of Market Special Use District and make other amendments and making appropriate findings. Item number 11 is an ordinance amending the business and tax regulations and planning codes to create the Central South of Market Sustainability District. Item number 12 is an ordinance amending the administrative and planning codes to give effect to the Central South of Market area plan and make appropriate findings. And item number 13 is an ordinance amending the administrative code special tax financing law to authorize special tax financing of certain facilities and services related to the Central SOMA area plan.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you so much. The Central SOMA plan saga continues, and I will be making a motion to continue all of these items to the following Land Use Committee next Monday. We are working on a number of amendments, and just for the sake of transparency, the amendments that we are working on are to tweak the Community Facilities District. 1, 2, a number of technical fixes throughout the plan. 3, we are still engaging in a number of community asks that have been made to preserve or ensure as much housing and affordable housing as possible throughout the plan, as well as some mandates around childcare facilities on sites at large key sites, and ensuring that within the design guide of POPOs that we include family and children facilities. So we are working on those amendments. As well as considering a potential requirement for key sites to provide housing as part of their plan when they do later come to the full board for their approvals. So we are hoping to get this all drafted throughout the week and submit our final set of amendments next Monday. It will sit in Land Use Committee for a week before it is then transferred to the full board for approval. But I do want to thank everyone, all of our project sponsors, all of our community leaders, the planning department, Lisa Chen and Josh Switsky in particular, as well as our city attorneys, Peter and Mark, for all of their tremendous amount of work. They're literally living at our office, but we do hope to get this all through. So at this time, I would just open up for public comment on these items, and then I will make a motion to continue all of these items to the following week. And actually, I just see Lisa Chen and Josh Suski from the planning staff are here to answer any questions if there are any from committee members.
Thank you. Public comment is open for items 9 through 13. Please comment up if you have anything to say.
Good afternoon again, Supervisors. John Erbling. And I wanted to focus today on the essential need for land banking affordable housing sites in the Central SOMA and all of South of Market, because without that, The goal of 33% overall affordable housing in all of Soma as an outcome of the Central Soma Plan will not be possible to achieve. It's going to take a dozen or more affordable housing sites over the next 20 years to achieve that goal. And while some progress has been made and several sites have been identified and several have been secured, it's only a small number, 4 or 5 or 6, compared to the 15 or 20 that we will ultimately need in the long haul. To do that, it is essential that some of the housing fees paid by developers, and I'm thinking specifically of the inclusionary housing in lieu fee, the fee outs by the luxury towers that are planned for Soma, that those funds, some of those funds, be allocated to a land banking fund by Mo. Mo can't do that today. They don't have sufficient resources. And without the cash, and I'm talking at least $30 million, it will not be possible to acquire those sites. Thanks to legislation this board recently approved, sites can be cost-effectively purchased in a part of South of Market, the remaining SALI district in the West Soma, in the southwest corner of South of Market. And that should be targeted and done as quickly as possible. So I'm here to urge you to do this and to look for every opportunity to have developers provide sites as well, for which they will be reimbursed their cost. But without those sites for the long haul, the promise that we're making to the community actually will not happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Gina Alejo, and I work in SOMCAN in the Soma. We still have numerous urgent issues with the Central Soma Plan around preserving existing residents, displacement, and gentrification. The plan states as one of its main goals accommodating housing demand and addressing such demand to alleviate housing prices. The plan, however, does not provide any further studies or figures that support the claim that the new development will drive down housing costs. As a result, the goal of the plan of maintaining the diversity of residents here in terms of socioeconomic background appears empty. Many cities are now fully realizing the negative impacts of the push to build an ideology fully embraced by the Central Soma Plan. Without adequate controls and enforcement in this place, SROs in Soma will not continue to be used as open and accessible affordable housing options. New condos will be only affordable as high-end luxury housing or sitting vacant because they are not occupied by the investors or have no intentions of living there. New condos will be used as commercial short-term rentals, corporate rentals, and or student housing instead of residential use. The city needs to counterbalance the massive displacement that this plan will have by having restrictions on micro units and SRO developments in the plan, with an exemption to only allow 100% affordable SRO developments such as senior housing or transitional housing. That's all. Thank you.
Hello, Supervisors. David Wu with the South of Market Community Action Network. The Youth and Family Special Use District was adopted by the Board of Supervisors in January 2009 with the purpose of expanding the stock of affordable housing, as well as protecting and enhancing the health and environment of youth and families in the South of Market by encouraging uses that support their livelihoods, such as employment, workforce development, small business, open space, community-based organizations, schools, and pedestrian safety. Planning, however, continues to ignore the priorities and intentions of the Youth and Family Special Use District, and this extends to the Central Soma Plan as well. We demand that planning revise and strengthen the controls of the South of Market Youth and Family Special Use District, and that those controls be incorporated throughout the whole Central Soma Plan, not just the boundaries of the Special Use District that overlap with the plan. There are three new hotel projects that are in the Central Soma Plan but are not being considered as key sites. Those are 816 Folsom Street, 399 Fifth Street, and 300 Fifth Street. All three sites are in the Youth and Family Special Use District, and since one of the main purposes of the Special Use District is to expand the stock of affordable housing, we urge you to not support these projects and instead consider them as sites for affordable housing to address the huge jobs housing imbalance in the plan. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Norman Degelman. I'm a resident of District 5 and a member of Neighbors United, and I'm concerned about gentrification in this area. Thank you.
Hello, supervisors. My name is Leanne Ladia. I work in the field of art, history, and design. I work at SOMCAN and Soma Pilipinas and in District 6. And recently I was invited as art ambassador for South of Market at the San Francisco Arts Commission. I usually work in community engagement, creating community planning workshops with youths, seniors, and parents. And I urge you to take note of this process whenever you design something in the South of Market, so that the designs and the feedback that you will get will be culturally competent. In terms of the Central Soma Plan, the reality of global warming coupled with high concentration of automobiles in the South of Market lead to an urgent need to take proactive steps to address greenhouse gas emissions and poor air quality. There is such a lack of green space and greenery in general in the South of Market. And actually last week I was just in a community planning workshop with some seniors from Mendelssohn House, and they were complaining that there's such a lack of green space in Soma, and they would actually go to Washington Park at Kearny Street, take the 30 bus to exercise, to do their daily exercise. And I also urge you to think about, these seniors who were a result of the past redevelopment planning events that happened in the past years. Mendelssohn House and Wolf House were in existence because of the redevelopment plans that happened in the South of Market. We will see an undeniable increase in automobile traffic due to the rezoning of the plan, and living walls and living roofs must be required in all new development, regardless of height and use type. In addition, we have said in previous hearings that...
Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Erica Martinovich, and I'm with SOMCAN. The following addresses amendments that have already been introduced to the plan. The Housing Sustainability District allows the streamlining of housing production, but there is no additional affordability currently required. Allowing this developer benefits that come with it monetary value, whether that value has been quantified or not, without any additional public benefit is a complete giveaway. There must be at least a 10% increase in the affordability required as part of the HSD. The exceptions being allowed to privately owned public open space, 25% of indoor popos allowed to have ceiling heights of less than 20 feet, and 10% of outdoor popos to be under a cantilever, highlight a larger issue of the reliance on this form of privatized open space in the plan. The issue with popos is that they are and will continue to be inaccessible and unfriendly to children, youth, and families. There are no controls in place to require that popos are actually designed and programmed to be community serving and actually function like true public open spaces. These exceptions further cement the reality that popos are not public open spaces, and that the strategy for providing public open space under this plan is inadequate. PDR replacement requirements must be applied to all types of developments regardless of use. For example, PDR replacement requirements must include residential developments. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Corey Smith on behalf of the San Francisco Housing Action Coalition. I feel like you've heard these comments from me a few times. We are in support. I'd like to state, just so everybody's also aware, it's presently illegal to build housing, apartment buildings, about 75% of San Francisco. None of that is in Supervisor Kim's district. Perhaps some more density equity across the city could be helpful all the way around. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to comment on items 9 through 13? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Supervisor Kim?
Can I just ask planning staff, either Lisa Chen or Josh Switsky, to respond to some of the concerns about Popo that just came up in the recent public comment about ensuring that that we put design standards in that allow the public to feel welcome. So when they're, and I know that planning shares these same concerns, but when we allow popos under cantilevers or in certain types of, if we design them a certain type of way, they don't feel open to all members of the public.
Certainly.
And what we're doing to address that.
Joshua Switsky with planning staff. Thank you, Supervisor. Yes, one of the amendments that was recently recommended by the Planning Commission at their recent hearing a couple weeks ago was to add an additional criteria in the design review process for reviewing popos by the Planning Commission to include that the design should be attractive to a broad array of the population, including families with children and seniors and so forth. The plan already also has an incentive baked into the plan to provide a slight reduction of the requirement if developers voluntarily provide things like children's play areas, dog runs, community gardens, and other amenities that are more atypical for popos and we'd like to see to serve the broader neighborhood. And so there's an incentive already baked in there for that. The department is also committed to moving forward with a new set of popos design guidelines, which the department was already going to be undertaking independent of the Central SOMA effort to guide developers and the community in terms of looking at the popos in the future, and that is starting to get underway, and so we hope that will be completed and adopted in the next few months as well.
Will there be any dedicated meetings with community members to ensure that their feedback is included in that
Certainly.
process?
Yes, for sure.
And then finally, to the point, addressing popos that are under cantilevers or sort of inside or outside the buildings, what is currently in the plan today?
So the Planning Commission did recommend some minor amendments to actually put more bounds on the potential exceptions that could be given to the rules that popos must be outdoors and open to the sky, to allow some very minor spaces to count towards that if they are not very deep and have sufficient clearance. And so generally we're very skeptical of spaces that are indoors and under buildings for the very same reasons that the community is. And so the amendments that are in there limit it in a very narrow way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So as I had mentioned earlier, we are currently still drafting a number of amendments for next Monday, including a number that were requested by the community. I did hear you loud and clear. I know that the mic turned off, but a request from the community to release the new jobs housing linkage fee nexus study that was undertaken by the mayor's office, so that we have an understanding of what those fees should look like today, given a new nexus study. Understanding the last one was done in 1997 and is clearly outdated. So I will be pushing for that, and the community, I know, will be continuing to push for that as well. So at this time, I'll make a motion to continue items 9 through 11 to the Land Use Committee of next week.
I'm sorry.
Is it 9 through 13?
Did I say yes? 9 through 13. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Great. So we'll continue items 9 through 13 to October 22nd Land Use Committee meeting. We'll do that without objection. All right, and now we are going to go back to item 8.
Would you like me to call item number 8?
I'm sorry?
Would you like me to call it?
Yes, please.
Item number 8 is a resolution urging BART to add a bus node at 24th Street BART station in San Francisco during the Transbay Tube seismic retrofit.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Amy Beinart from Supervisor Ronen's office here.
And I have some amendments that we were hoping that Thanks very much. Amy Beinart here, Legislative Aide to Supervisor Hillary Ronen. Here to speak about a resolution that Supervisor Ronen introduced on September 24th. It's co-sponsored by Supervisors Raphael Mandelman and Valley Brown, and the resolution is urging the BART board to add a bus node at 24th Street BART station to offset the later BART start time during the Transbay Tube earthquake safety retrofit, which is scheduled to begin in February and to take 3.5 years. Many minimum wage workers have been displaced from the city and continue to work in jobs in the city where they're required to begin their day as early as 5 a.m. And these workers really depend on the public transit for their daily commute. This change in hours and service would disproportionately affect people of color. 2/3 of BART riders in the first hour of service are people of color compared to just over half throughout the rest of the day. And in addition, this would disproportionately affect low-income commuters, as data show that 37% of BART riders are low-income, earning under $50,000 in wages. While temporary, the change is not short-term. We cannot have workers arriving late for 3.5 years and expect them to retain their job. The change of service is a critical issue for our hospitality, construction, and janitorial industries, low-income, early morning workers who provide essential goods and services for our economy and daily operations of our city's residents and visitors. These industries have already been struggling with massive worker shortage, and any reduction in service could hit them hard. We appreciate the efforts to date by BART and MTA to work together and plan for this disruption. There's been a lot of discussion and negotiation and planning going on. We were at the BART Board of Directors last Thursday, and since that time, there's been some progress. We want to urge that to continue. Specifically, we're asking that they confirm and enter into these agreements for the 24th Street bus node, which is a central locus of from where a lot of low-wage workers find their way to work close by. We want them to settle on a route that takes them from the transit center to 24th Street without stopping at Civic Center and Powell Street and Embarcadero, because that will slow down what's already going to be a fairly slow surface ride. And we want to ensure that they get to a bus schedule that's going to match the current BART train. So there are some one amendment that we proposed to the current resolution, and we're hoping to see that move forward today.
Thank you. And did you want to just state for the record exactly what that amendment is?
Sure. So on the second page, lines 10 through 13, it's now shown that the resolution states, further resolved that the San Francisco Board of Supervisors urges the BART Board to implement a morning route that will allow riders to arrive at 24th Street on the same schedule as the current BART train arrivals at 24th Street, which is 4:57 a.m. for the highly used Richmond Daly City Millbrain line, and be it.
Thank you. And how have your conversations been going with the BART Board?
So the BART Board and staff, BART staff came to meet with us today. BART Board was certainly very interested. I know that they've been hearing this from Local 2 came to speak with them. They've been hearing it from the Golden Gate Restaurant Association, and they have been working to figure this out. It is a tangle to unravel. There are 8 surface bus organizations that they have to figure this all out with, and they do want to make sure that there's critical mass when they pull people into one bus node and then bring them across. The progress that they've made the significant progress that they've made, I think, at this point is in planning to skip over the other spots, the other nodes between Transit Center and 24th Street. So it would go straight from Transit Center, 16th Street, 24th Street, Glen Park, Balboa Park. And so that kind of jumps over the downtown area. And there would be a separate line which would take people to the downtown area, which seems much more efficient. I think that's in progress. What we want to do is make sure that they understand that we're really serious about this. We're watching it. We're watching it from our end because they've got a big map to look at.
Okay, thank you very much. Supervisor Safai.
Just so I understand this a little bit more, you're saying in this the resolved on page 2 are to implement 24th Street Boat as part of their mitigation strategy to offset later 5 a.m. start time, serve those riders who use 16th and 24th Glen Park, So how does the 24th Street then help the Balboa BART station?
So what they would, very good question, Supervisor, and I can see where you'd be particularly interested in that station.
Right.
So they will be, the 24th Street station is, or actually in this case, probably we'll end up with the 16th Street station, will be the first stop along the way to move people southward. So rather than having folks brought across the bay by buses to Transit Center and then starting to go to each of the nodes along the way, each of the BART stops along the way, we'll get an express bus that takes to 24th. It may be 16th, but we're still working on 24th being the first of those, and then southward from there.
When it would hit all the other stations.
Yes.
Oh, okay, got
yes.
it. Okay.
All right, thank you for that question. Colleagues, any other questions or comments on item 8? Okay, seeing none, public comment is, we're going to now go to public comment on item 8. Any members of the public who wish to speak, please come on up. Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. Colleagues, can we get a motion on first the amendment to item 8 as was stated on the record?
I'll move to adopt those amendments as stated.
Thank you. We'll do that without objection. And on the underlying item as amended, if we can get a motion on that.
Motion to approve with recommendation to the full board.
All right, as amended. So we'll do that without objection. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, if we can now go to item 14, and we are joined by the sponsor of that hearing, Supervisor Cohen.
Yes, item number 14 is a hearing on the cleanup timeline and disputes between federal regulators and the United States Navy on the percentage of parcel G to be retested and the methodology for retesting soil at Hunters Point Shipyard, and requesting DPH, OCII, California of Toxic Substance Control, United States Navy, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency to report.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the hearing over to President Cohen.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, let's wake up and get excited because we're going to talk about the Hunters Point Shipyard, and we need everyone's full focus. Supervisor Kim, you coming back? Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. So I just want to recap and reframe about what we're doing and why we are doing it. Okay? May 14th in 2018, I called a hearing to clarify the roles and the responsibilities of the Navy, of the regulatory agencies, specifically to the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard cleanup. And so today we are reconvening for an update regarding the work plan, regarding the timeline for the retesting of parcel G, G as in girl, at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. I also want to clarify the roles and the responsibilities between the various stakeholders, especially the regulators and the United States Navy on this project. Since the wake of the news around the falsified test, our community, or testing data, I should be specific, our community has struggled to find peace of mind concerning their safety, concerning the habitability of this neighborhood, and about who we can actually trust. I'm sure that these are reasonable doubts, these are reasonable things that any well-educated and well-intentioned and focused community would ask and would wonder. The last time we were here, this body was told that parcel A was clear and that it was clean, but recently we discovered a radioactive deck marker. So I just wanted to reiterate that the community deserves to have confidence in the results, and also have confidence in the agencies charged with securing their health and their well-being. I'm a part of that team, so I'm not speaking as if I do not have a duty or responsibility in that effort. I've asked for a timeline for when we can expect this work to be completed. So I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation this afternoon. I want to also point out that I've also asked the Navy, the Department of Toxic Substance Control, also known as DTSC, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency, to work together to end an era of environmental injustice that has existed for far too long in the southeastern neighborhood of Bayview Hunters Point. So today I want to ensure that the public's concerns about Parcel G are addressed, and that we continue to hold people accountable for the work that they're doing in and on behalf of the city and county of San Francisco. So with that, what I plan to do is to use this hearing to ask questions and obtain information on the retesting of the land on Parcel G, and also at this time acknowledging that this is just the beginning of the process to earn and to build trust in the city for those agencies that are responsible in the health and the well-being of the community. So what we're going to do, that ends my opening remarks. I want to just recognize Kim Ostrowski, who we will be inviting her to come speak first. She and her team from the Navy. Following Kim Ostrowski will be Mohsen Nazimi from the Department of Toxic Substance Control. And then we will hear from Mark Starr from the California Department of Public Health, followed by Enrique Manzanilla from the EPA. And then we will also have a presentation from a member of the San Francisco Department of Public Health. As you begin to share your statements, please indicate just two things: your agency's role and the responsibilities in the Parcel G work plan. Your agency role and then your responsibility in the Parcel G work plan. All right, Kimberly, you're up. Come on down. It's good to see you. Kimberly's bringing with her a team of professionals: Derek Robinson, Zach Edwards, Thomas Macarella, Lawrence Lansdale, and Bill Franklin. These are an extraordinary team representing the Navy. Good afternoon and welcome back to San Francisco.
Thank you. Well, before I even start the statement that I prepared, I'll start by answering the questions you just asked. Who's responsible? Parcel G and the work on Hunters Point Shipyard. The Navy is the lead agency. We are responsible for the cleanup of the shipyard.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, President Cohen and other board members. I'm Kim Ostrowski, Director of the Navy's BRAC Program Management Office for the West. I have cognizance of all Navy BRAC bases in the Bay Area. When we were here last in May, we discussed the circumstances that led to the need to perform a full reevaluation of the radiological work performed by Tetra Tech EC at Hunters Point. Today, I'm here to share with you the progress we've made toward that reevaluation, our efforts to reassure residents of Parcel A of their safety, and our ongoing community engagement and educational activities. I'll also start by reiterating comments from our last appearance. The Navy's first priority is the unwavering protection of public health and safety. Second, we're committed to successfully completing the cleanup work at Hunters Point and completing property transfer for use by the community. Third, we are also committed to ensuring the public has confidence in the results by working transparently and providing facts based on sound radiological science. In June, the Navy released its proposed work plan for retesting of Parcel G, which was identified by the city as its top priority parcel for redevelopment. Resampling Parcel G will allow us to determine if cleanup work is complete or if additional remediation will be required. In August, the Navy received comments on the Parcel G work plan. I would like to make it very clear that we appreciate the input of our regulatory partners and community members. We believe we have a path forward and will be releasing a draft final work plan shortly. The final work plan will be comprehensive and provide new reliable data for soil and buildings at Parcel G. Work will include excavations, borings, and scanning of soil and buildings. The Navy BRAC Program Office and the Navy's Radiological Affairs Support Office will oversee the process and conduct field inspections. Further, the Navy has hired a third-party quality assurance contractor to conduct regular field inspections to ensure the Parcel G work is performed properly. All radiological data will also be submitted to the Radiological Affairs Support Office for review. These Navy health physicists were the first to identify the data falsification by Tetra Tech EC, and they will continue their stringent analysis. Additionally, the US EPA and California Department of Public Health will conduct independent sampling to confirm the results. The Navy will use the comprehensive Parcel G work plan as the model for future work plans for Parcels B, C, D2, E, UC1, UC2, and UC3. These work plans will provide for comprehensive investigations and required remediation if necessary. We look forward to starting field work in Parcel G once the final work plan is complete. We are grateful to our regulatory partners and stakeholders for their constructive participation in the work plan development, and to Congresswoman Pelosi for her support and for securing additional funding for fiscal year 2019. Since our last discussion, the Navy has also supported the California Department of Public Health in its efforts to complete a health and safety scan of Parcel A. 90% of scanning activities across Parcel A1, totaling 56 acres, have been completed. The information collected continues to confirm that the area was not used for work involving radiological materials. The scan did not find any soil contamination or evidence of radiological activities. Most importantly, the scan's extremely detailed and sensitive methodology reinforced the fact that Parcel A is safe to live and work on. One historic object, which was identified as a deck marker, was discovered and removed by the Navy. The deck marker was found approximately 10 inches below the soil surface at the bottom of the hill on the north side of Parcel A1 in an inaccessible area behind a fence. Once removed, no radiological signature remained in the soil or area. While we cannot speculate on how it came to be in that location, I can tell you that there were no historic disposal sites on Parcel A. Therefore, it was likely lost or incidentally discarded. I understand that many community members are not familiar with deck markers and may have been concerned after reading erroneous portrayals of the risk associated with this item. Deck markers are low-level radiological objects which were used in the 1950s and 60s to support military operations. They were used to light the decks of ships and were also clipped to service members' apparel to indicate each other's position at night. The San Francisco Department of Public Health engaged a third-party radiological expert to review the deck marker. They concluded that the risk due to radiation exposure from the buried deck marker represents the low end of background radiation experienced by the public. The deck marker measurements, as it was found, are less than radiation from a dental x-ray or a transcontinental flight. The Parcel A scan did not find any other deck markers or radiological items. Again, the scan did not find any soil contamination or evidence of radiological activities. These results are reinforced by the fact that the instrumentation was so sensitive that it was able to identify natural occurring materials such as potassium in wood chips and fertilizer. These findings confirm the well-documented history of Parcel A's non-radiological use and should provide renewed confidence that Parcel A1 is safe. In order to provide a similar level of confidence in other parcels transferred to the city, Navy will also be completing a health and safety scan of all accessible areas of Parcel G after the retesting work is complete and prior to transfer to the City of San Francisco. Similarly, the Navy will perform health and safety scans of the surfaces of Parcels D2, UC1, and UC2 after the reevaluation of Tetra Tech EC's work on those parcels is complete, to provide confidence in their suitability for reuse by the city. Throughout this process, the Navy has undertaken enhanced community outreach to ensure interested community members have access to factual, educational information about the Parcel G work plan, Parcel A scanning, and the path forward for Hunters Point. We have attended meetings hosted by other community organizations, including participation in several of the Mayor's Citizens Advisory Committee meetings. We've conducted various media interviews. We've held numerous meetings with the residents and homeowners at Parcel A and conducted regular bus tours of the site. We also have an extensive email and newsletter mailing list. Together, these can reach over 12,000 people in the local zip codes. In addition, we have office hours for community members to meet with Dr. Catherine Higley, a renowned expert in the field of health physics and the head of the School of Nuclear Science and Engineering at Oregon State University. We encourage citizens with questions about radiological risk and safety to attend one of our public meetings or Dr. Higley's office hours for a straightforward explanation of our work and our findings. We are thankful for the continued engagement of the Board of Supervisors and Mayor Breed, as well as the work of our regulatory partners and congressional representatives to advance the next phase of a comprehensive retesting at Hunters Point. Hunters Point has a long history of service to the country, and we will ensure that it is able to remain in service to the city of San Francisco. Now I'd like to ask our technical experts, Zach Edwards, who is a health physicist in the Navy's Radiological Affairs Support Office, and Derek Robinson, he's the BRAC Environmental Coordinator for Hunters Point. I'll have them join me at the podium and we can answer your questions.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I just have a few questions. I believe in your presentation you briefly touched on it. Maybe at this point you can go into a little bit more depth. What's the role, what are the next steps for your agency in relation to the work plan and the monitoring process? What are the next steps?
So we released the draft work plan in June of this year, and it went out for a 60-day review. Agencies, the regulatory agencies and the public had an opportunity to review and comment on the draft work plan. We have received comments, and we are drafting responses to those comments, and we will be incorporating these comments into the next version of the work plan. That will be the draft final version, which we expect will be released by the end of this month. The draft final then goes to the regulatory agencies. They have 30 days to accept it. Once they accept it, it becomes final, and then we can initiate field work once we have a final work plan.
And for those of the people that are maybe watching at home and that are not in the chamber and probably don't understand exactly the process, why is it important to put comments or take, for you, in your case, receive comments for the work plan?
It's a very public process, and we are interested in getting feedback from the regulatory agencies, from the public. Sometimes there can be a difference in opinion, a scientific opinion, and we can work through these differences with the agencies when we need to. And then we can move forward with what we think is the best approach when we finalize the work plan.
And what kind of comments are people submitting?
We've received a bunch of comments. I'll let Derek Robinson, who's a little bit more
knowledgeable about the
work plan, he can answer.
Great, thank you.
Hello, Derek Robinson with the Navy, BRAC Environmental Coordinator for Hunters Point. So I think your question was what types of comments. So I can give you general categories.
That's
of
exactly
comments.
what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so generally it's the extent of soil sampling that we'll be doing, the extent of scanning that we'll be doing, the locations. Those are probably the most common.
So the question, are the comments coming from everyday people, people that live near the property, people that are around, people that are watching the process from across the country? Are they physicists? Are they biologists? Are they connected to the process through the science as well? Or is, I would imagine it's a broad spectrum.
They don't always identify exactly where they're from. I can tell you that the regulatory agencies have all submitted comments, the ones that we normally work with, and those are U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Toxic Substances and Control, the Department of Public Health, and the City of San Francisco Department of Public Health. So California Department of Public Health and the City of San Francisco.
Thank you. Specifically, I want to go back to you, Ms. Ostrowski, in your presentation. You mentioned a surface scan, the surface scan process.
Yes.
And how in depth will this scan go? And does the surface scan include scanning buildings? I think you said you picked up the deck marker,
Yeah.
and it was 10 inches below
the ground surface, yeah. So we'll have to put a plan in place on what that scanning is going to look like, but our intention, and we haven't drafted that yet, I mean, we've just now made the decision and thought it would be prudent to do a surface scan. So we'll put a plan together on what that scan will look like, but our intention is to any accessible areas that we can scan, that's what we intend to do.
Will you be scanning buildings?
We'll have to evaluate. We likely will not be scanning the building sidewalls, but we can evaluate whether or not we'll scan the building floor.
And what materials can the scanner pass through?
I'm going to let the health physicists talk about shielding and
Sure.
radiation and what they can detect with different instrumentation. So we'll let Zach answer that question.
Hi, I'm Zach Edwards from the Navy's Radiological Affairs Support Office, the Director of the Environmental Protection Division. Could you
Sure. So my
restate the
question was, what materials can the scanner pass through?
The scanner just sees the radiation. The radiation, a gamma ray, for instance, can pass through pretty much any material.
Got it.
That's pretty much the type of radiation we're going to be looking for.
All right. Just want to make sure it would pick up no matter what we're scanning.
It can
The gamma
see
ray
gamma
will be
rays.
picked up.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
they will be.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the recently discovered deck marker at Parcel A. What risk does this discovered deck marker pose to the Hunters Point shipyard residents and also the surrounding community?
To try and put it in context, I'll give you some numbers from some of our regulatory partners that they consider acceptable doses. I'll start with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and all these doses are measured in REM. It's just a measure of biological equivalent. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission will allow a radiation worker that's working on licensed material to receive up to 5,000 millirem in a year. A member of the general public can receive 100 millirem per year without being monitored. This deck marker that was found at Parcel A represents an additional 5 millirem to a resident who would stand on that deck marker for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And that's an extraordinarily conservative estimate. To put that in context, I received over 5 millirem just flying back and forth to attend this meeting.
Thank you.
So it is an extraordinarily low risk, low dose.
All right, well, one more follow-up question just for clarification. Are there any other areas in the surrounding community that could have been impacted by the contaminated matter found at the Hunters Point shipyard?
We start our process by doing a historical radiological assessment, and we've reviewed over 15,000 references. Of those references, they include interviews, reports, documentation, pretty much any literature that we could get our hands on back as far as our records go. And we have no indication of anything that's happened outside of the shipyard proper. Further, we have processes in place such as restrictions on access. We have documentation on all the material that was removed from the site. We have dust control measures in place. There should not be any impact outside the shipyard.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ostrowski, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and pivot to Mr. Robinson. I just have questions about communication. Come on down, Mr. Robinson. So what is the format for the public meetings to ensure that the community has their questions answered?
Yeah, we have several different types of community public meetings that we are involved with. I think the Hunters Point community, Bayview community, has a great deal of different types of people, and so that's what we also focus our communication. We focus on different types of different types of ways to talk to them. So the Navy holds at least 3 community meetings per year, and those are typically poster board style meetings. In addition, we have bus tours for people who feel a little more comfortable. We offer around 4 bus tours per year. We also go to local community events where there already people are gathering, and we have different types of forums there. So some of those are more of your town hall style, where we answer questions to people who are asking questions. For example, the city's CAC meeting, which we attended in September and plan on attending in November as well. So there's lots of different ways that we communicate with the public.
Okay. Who does the community go to for updates once the work plan is underway?
Well, they can absolutely come to me. That is my primary responsibility, is working with the community. If they'd like, we have an email distribution list that anybody who signs up for that, we send them communication. They can go onto our website, as well as there's future community meetings planned in the next, every month for the next 3 or 4 months.
And I assume that there's going to be regularly scheduled community meetings to share information as the work plan gets implemented.
Yes, absolutely. Already in the plans.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Since I have all 3 of you, this is a moment for self-reflection. And in hindsight, what could have been done better to prevent oversight like this from happening over meeting the deck marker?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a question that we've asked ourselves, and we've already put in place several different measures to accentuate our already very robust oversight of this type of work. Mm-hmm. So in addition to the Navy going out regularly, myself as well as my project managers, we have a third party that we've hired, a company to oversee all of our radiological work. I know there's been increased oversight from The Environmental Protection Agency and they plan on taking samples after we've collected work at Parcel G, and California Department of Public Health, who will also be collecting samples afterwards to ensure that everything that we find is without question.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I don't have any other questions for the Navy. I don't know if any other committee people do.
Thank you, President Cohen. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we don't have any other questions.
Fair
or comments.
enough. We will go to the representatives from DTSC. Mr. Nazemi, thank you. Mr. Nazemi is the Deputy Director of DTSC. I think you've got your Site Mitigation and Restoration Program Branch Chief, Janet, somewhere close by.
Yes, good afternoon.
Okay.
President, Supervisor Amelia Cohen, Chairwoman Katie Tang, Vice Chair Supervisor Jane Kim. My name is Mohsen Nazemi, and I first apologize for my voice. I'm under the weather, so bear with me. I'm the Deputy Director with Department of Toxic Substances Control, or DTSC, in charge of the Site Mitigation and Restoration Program and responsible for overseeing remediation and cleanup of contaminated sites in the state of California. And with me today is Ms. Janet Naito, my program branch chief from our Berkeley office here. Thank you for your invitation and the opportunity to provide some brief comments at your committee meeting today. DTSC's mission is to protect public health and the environment in California, and I would like to assure you that we take this responsibility very seriously. I also want to assure you that Hunters Point is one of the top priorities at DTSC, and we have devoted significant resources to the cleanup of Hunters Point site. DTSC understands the concerns that the community and the supervisors have regarding the results of the radiological testing performed by Tetra Tech EC at the Hunters Point site. Let me assure you that we at DTSC also have the same concerns, and as a result, DTSC has provided specific comments to the Navy under draft Parcel G work plan and has been engaged in several meetings and discussions with the regulatory agencies and the Navy to provide the Navy further input on retesting of Hunters Point. DTSC also understands and appreciates the concerns expressed by the residents of Parcel A and their desire to learn about the results of scanning of Parcel A. DTSC appreciates and supports California Department of Public Health's retesting of Parcel A to ensure that the residents in Parcel A are not exposed to harmful radiation related to the operations of the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. DTSC wants to make sure that the existing and future residents at Hunters Point Naval Shipyard and the surrounding communities are protected from any potential adverse health impacts associated with the past operations at this site. As a result, DTSC, along with California Department of Public Health, US EPA Region 9, and other regulatory agencies, have devoted a significant amount of resources to ensure that public health is protected, and I would like to thank them for all their efforts. Just as a point of clarification and in response to your earlier question about the roles of agencies, the U.S. Department of Navy is the lead agency responsible for the cleanup of the Superfund site referred to as Hunters Point. The U.S. EPA Region 9 is the federal lead agency overseeing the cleanup activities at Hunters Point to ensure the cleanup is conducted consistent with federal law. DTSC is the lead state agency overseeing the cleanup at Hunters Point. Our role is to ensure the cleanup also complies with applicable state laws and is completed in a manner that is protective of public health and the environment. DTSC also works in collaboration with the California Department of Public Health, who is the state authority on radiological matters and is under contract to DTSC in our oversight role as the state lead agency for the cleanup of Hunters Point. However, California Department of Public Health, as the state expert in radiological matters, is the lead agency in scanning of Parcel A. So the issues of concern are, DTSC experts have been working closely with the EPA Region 9 and California Department of Public Health experts, as well as the Department of Navy, to review and evaluate the integrity of the radiological testing done at Parcel G and other parcels at this site. We're aware of Tetra Tech falsification of the data, and for that reason, and due to additional concerns about data quality, DTSC has recommended that all the data collected by Tetra Tech EC be retested. DTSC, along with US EPA Region 9, California Department of Public Health, have recommended that Parcel G, as well as other parcels previously tested by Tetra Tech EC, be retested to address any data falsification or data quality issues associated with radiological contamination in these areas. To that end, DTSC, along with the US EPA and California Department of Public Health, as well as San Francisco City Department of Public Health, have all provided detailed comments on the draft Parcel G work plan that Navy released in June of this year. DTSC recommended that the Navy use a different and more comprehensive retesting of Parcel G that provides a greater level of confidence in the results. Last week, the Navy released their responses to the regulatory agency's comments and indicated that the Navy agrees to revise the Parcel G work plan to incorporate the approach and method of retesting proposed by DTSC and other regulatory agencies. The Navy also stated that it is committed to sample every trench and survey unit that Tetra Tech EC conducted work at Parcel G. The Navy is preparing a revised Parcel G work plan that will be incorporating our comments for this retesting and will release the revised work plan towards the latter part of this month. DTSC and California Department of Public Health are committed to work with US EPA Region 9 and Navy to have the retesting begin as expeditiously as possible. However, the timing of completion of the cleanup will depend on the results of retesting and to what extent, if any, further remediation may be required. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, DTSC, along with the US EPA Region 9 and California Department of Public Health, wants to ensure the safety of the community presently residing or working at Hunters Point Shipyard, specifically Parcel A. Therefore, DTSC, along with the US EPA Region 9, are in constant communication with the California Department of Public Health to be appraised of the results of their scanning of Parcel A. DTSC appreciates and supports the California Department of Public Health's efforts in scanning of Parcel A, and depending on the final results of the scanning, DTSC will work closely with US EPA Region 9 and California Department of Public Health in consultation with the Navy and the San Francisco City Department of Public Health to determine what, if any, additional testing or remediation is necessary for Parcel A. So in conclusion, DTSC understands the supervisors and community members have legitimate questions and concerns about the safety of the Hunters Point reuse site. We also understand the need to complete the cleanup at Hunters Point and allow the development of San Francisco's much-needed housing. DTSC's primary responsibility and focus is the protection of the community and the environment. To ensure the site is safe for present and future residents and workers, we will work with US EPA Region 9 and California Department of Public Health, City of San Francisco, and the Navy to make sure the resampling of Parcel G and other areas previously tested by Tetra Tech EC is performed properly, is technically sound, and is completed in a timely manner. Finally, DTSC is committed to protect the health of the community at Hunters Point, and we work with the California Department of Public Health, US EPA Region 9, and others to ensure that concerns about Parcel A are addressed expeditiously and that all other parcels at Hunters Point site will be safe for the future uses of the property prior to transfer to the city. Thank you again for your invitation and the opportunity to provide comments at your committee meeting.
Thank you for your thoughtful comments. Just a few questions. What are the next steps for your agency in relation to the work plan and monitoring process?
So as I mentioned, we had provided detailed comments that last week the Navy responded to our comments and indicated that they will incorporate them into a revised work plan. Navy just indicated that they will release that revised work plan by the end of this month and provide another 30 days for the agencies and others review to make sure that our comments are incorporated into the work plan. Once we have satisfied that they have been, then the work plan will become final, and then we will have the state oversight role to make sure that the Navy will follow that work plan and performs the standards that are identified in that document.
So how will you be involved in the oversight of the data collection process and the analysis?
the lead for responsibility for cleanup has been by the Department of Navy. What DTSC has done is, as the state oversight agency, we have reviewed the work that they have done and made sure that what they have done in terms of sampling and testing meets the state standards that are required as part of the cleanup for this site. We have not been the actual contractor to collect samples or have California Department of Public Health to collect the samples. We have reviewed the documents once they had collected the samples, so we are very concerned about the falsification, as I mentioned earlier.
So my question specifically is, I know you're not collecting the samples, but you are in charge of the oversight and reading and dealing with toxic substances. So my question again is, how are you involved in the oversight of the, perhaps it's not the data collection, but maybe it's on the analysis side? Are you just receiving and reading the information?
Well, the federal facilities such as Hunters Point is under a federal facility agreement with the state and the federal government. Under the federal facility agreement, Section 20, there's a requirement that the Department of Navy hire a contractor to perform this testing and sampling, and also to designate a quality assurance officer who will be responsible for verifying that the data that is collected meets the certain quality standards. If you recall, at the previous hearings, the Navy indicated that they found some discrepancies in the data that was collected and raised that to the contractor who collected the data, Tetra Tech being the contractor at the time.
Who's the new contractor? Who's the new contractor now?
I believe it's better for the Navy to respond to that. I don't want to.
Okay, well, I'll come back. I'll circle back to the Navy.
Okay.
I'll come back to them. While I have you, I just have a few more questions. Are there other areas in the surrounding communities that could have been impacted by the contaminated matter, specifically the deck marker?
So the scan of Parcel A results showed that there was, and it's about 95% completed, and I think California Department of Public Health, Mr. Starr will explain that was the only thing that they found at Parcel A. Parcel G is an area that's secured, and the rest of the Hunters Point as well, that those will be undergoing the retesting, as I mentioned earlier, under the work plan. So it will determine whether or not there is any contamination left in those areas, and if there is, then they have to be remediated before the area is turned in for protection use.
Development, right. So based on what I'm hearing is that you're saying the scan is only, I shouldn't say only, the scan is about 95% complete. There's an outstanding 5% that still needs to be scanned, and that there is no contamination around the, and I'm not just talking, my question, let me be specific, is not for just a shipyard. I'm talking about other neighborhoods up on West Point, up on the Hill, other people that are also that are fearful, that live in the Bayview community, as far as going to 3rd Street, and even when you cross 3rd Street into Silva Terrace, there's just a large, a large number, a high level of fear. And so what I like to do, and I think I heard it, and I just wanted to just put a finer point on is that that people are safe, that the deck marker that was collected was obtained and then rescanned, and that there isn't any reason for people to be nervous about living on the shipyard and living in and around the shipyard.
Again, I would defer to the Department of Public Health to explain what the risk is associated with the deck marker, as you heard the Navy explaining that. But as far as what else was found,
what is the role of the Toxic Substance Control? Why are you here then?
So we are the state oversight agency, but we use California Department of Public Health because they are the experts for radiological matters, not the TSC.
Right.
And they are under contract to us. So for the review of all the rest of the Hunters Point site, we will collaborate very closely with California Department of Public Health to make sure that all the remaining areas are compliant with radiological exposures so that there is no harm associated with exposure to the communities surrounding the site. But as far as Parcel A, California Department of Public Health took the lead to rescan and determine whether or not there is any remaining contamination left in Parcel A. Parcel A, as you recall, was released in 2004 and has been developed since 2012. So we are not oversight role anymore for Parcel A, but if the scanning results from the California Department of Public Health shows that there is contamination left at this parcel, then both DTSC and US EPA Region 9, in consultation with CDPH, will have to decide what additional testing or remediation needs to be done. At that point, we will become the lead agency or oversight agency again.
So as of right now, you're saying that you're not the lead agency, right? I'm just trying to understand exactly.
Okay,
role.
I'm sorry, it's a little complicated, but the lead agency for the cleanup is the Department of Navy.
Yes, I understand that. I want to know, what is your role? You say you're in collaboration, but what are you collaborating? You're not doing anything. The other agencies are doing the analysis. I'm trying to understand, what is your role?
So our role is we have expertise in chemical contamination.
And how did that? How in this area of expertise? How does it help with the overall cleanup of the shipyard?
So Hunters Point was not only contaminated with radiological matters. It had contamination of all kinds of different chemicals.
Okay.
DTSC experts looked over the cleanup of all other contaminations, and then only with respect to radiological matters, we relied on California Department of Public Health.
Thank you. That clarifies.
Okay, sorry, I didn't understand your question well.
Fair enough.
I thought you were still focusing on radiological.
No, I understand. I think you've clarified, and I'll reiterate it. There are many things that are associated with the contamination of the shipyard. The radiological, which has been the focal point, but is not the only thing. And what I'm hearing is that when it comes to the radiological cleanup, that the Navy is the lead agency responsible for that. And your agency that you represent is responsible for other chemicals, for lack of a better way to describe it, or?
I apologize again to clarify. The Navy is the lead agency responsible for cleanup of all contamination, chemical, radiological, everything else. Our department, as the state oversight, has expertise on chemical waste, and so we oversee all the work that the Navy does in terms of cleaning up chemical waste at the site, and we use our contractor, California Department of Public Health, to oversee the radiological cleanup of this site. So we do have oversight for all the cleanup, except our department doesn't have the expertise on radiological aspects.
I understand. So, so what is it that you will review with the Department of Public Health?
With respect to Parcel G or the rest of the Hunters Point, or Parcel A?
With respect to Parcel A.
Parcel A is only being evaluated by the California Department of Public Health. We are supporting that work. We are not involved.
I don't know what that means, supporting. You're just a cheerleader saying, yay, good work?
Well, we think it's a good approach because there were concerns expressed by the residents, and by going back and retesting it, it'll provide information to either prove or disprove that there was any contamination left.
Okay, and Parcel G, tell me your role in Parcel G.
So Parcel G, again, it is a complete retesting of all the areas that Tetra Tech EC had conducted sampling, and our role is to make sure that the retesting is conducted consistent with the work plan that is now being revised and released at the end of this month.
And so what will you be reviewing with Public Health?
So the Department of Public Health will be our agent for addressing the radionuclei or radiological sampling. They could be collecting split samples along with the Navy so that they can analyze the samples to make sure the analysis is done properly. We've also considered and recommended having a third-party oversight that the Navy apparently is going to bring on board to have another contractor oversee the work of their contractor to make sure they're also following up the work plan. And our role would be to make sure that what they have indicated in the work plan will actually be done. For example, if they said they will be testing all the soil in the trenches in this area, my staff will be out there, California Department of Public Health staff will be out there, and I'm assuming US EPA Region 9 will be out there to make sure that they are taking the samples from the areas that they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm. And will your staff be doing any kind of testing on the chemical waste? Or they just will be an oversight, making sure that the collection of the samples are done in the appropriate
If there
manner?
is new discoveries that there's additional chemical contamination that hasn't been already addressed, yes, we will be doing that. But at this point, the chemical contamination was already addressed.
All right, thank you. My final question is, what are the next steps for your agency in relation to the work plan and the monitoring process? What are the next steps for your organization in relation to the work plan?
After the revised plan is released, we will review the plan and comment back to the Navy to let them know whether it has incorporated all of our comments in the work plan or not. And if it has, then we will be giving the green light to go forward with the testing to ensure that there is no further contamination left.
And
on
how
site.
many comments have you submitted so far to the draft form? The draft work
we
plan?
submitted, I don't remember exactly the number of pages, but we had DTSC's comments on the cover and a memo from California Department of Public Health attached to our comment letter.
Mhm.
I think it was in the 20 to 30 page long.
Okay. You're in agreement with that, Janet? Okay. All right, thank you. I hope you feel better. I appreciate your answering the questions.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker that we're going to hear from is from the California Department of Public Health, Mark Starr, who is the Deputy Director for Environmental Health. He has on his team Anthony Chu, who's the Chief, Division of Radiation Safety and Environmental Management, and also Dale Shornack, who does Public Affairs. Good to see you.
Thank you so much, President Cohen, for inviting us here today and to the committee members as well. We're very happy to be able to be here and give you an update on our work specifically at Parcel A, but we can also answer the more general questions that you raised earlier. I'll begin with a basic description of our department's role with military base closure and realignment activities in California, but I'll really spend most of my time on Parcel A1 as you have requested.
Thank you.
And we'll also provide some preliminary findings, most up-to-date numbers that we have from the work that we're doing there.
Thank you.
Our department has a broad role in overseeing the safe use of radiation and radioactive materials in California in general. This includes medical uses that we're all familiar with, such as diagnostic x-rays, CT scans, training the staff that handle those, things like that. There's also cancer treatment modalities, many areas like that that we oversee, but also industrial uses, research uses, and others. It's a particularly important component of our department's public health protection programs. As you just heard from Mr. Nazemi, because of the skill set and expertise, DTSC contracts with our department because they're the lead agency reviewing DoD cleanup activities for the state. And we are able to provide the expertise for the radiologic aspects of those activities at military sites intended for transfer to civilian use. You asked specifically about what we do in general at DoD sites like Hunters Point, what our role is. Our department is in this capacity that DTSC contracts for. We're both consultative and regulatory. We do review of the radiologic cleanup work. We look at the plans for cleanup, the work plans, as you've just been discussing for Parcel G. We're part of the process of commenting on the work plans. We will analyze the survey data as the process is underway. We occasionally do confirmatory surveys and our own sampling, as was also previously mentioned, split samples, and our laboratory in Richmond does that work. We also review the conditions. If there's a limited release, we review the conditions of that release of the property. And we license entities that handle radioactive materials or devices, and that includes contractors that work on the cleanup at these sites. Mostly our purpose with the contractors is to oversee worker safety as well as public health and safety involved in the work that they do. So specifically for parcel A1, you've heard all the descriptions about the history of the site. I won't repeat those. You probably know them better than I do. But because of our expertise, as we've discussed, we were identified for the request to do a health and safety scan of parcel A1 based on the concerns raised by residents and others about information at Hunters Point in general. We have experience with other similar health and safety surveys, and we were able to fulfill the need for an independent entity to conduct such a survey. So we agreed to undertake the survey, and the Navy is funding the project. So specifically, our work plan for parcel A1 focuses on three critical areas. The first one is to detect or assess the possibility of any direct radiation from something in the soil that could still be there or may have been introduced at some point. And a gamma radiation survey is what we're looking for gamma radiation. It's the most appropriate approach for a health and safety survey like this. Alpha and beta radiation don't penetrate soil, and so they would not be detectable. The outdoor areas that are uncovered ground has been our primary focus, or those that have limited cover. So there's landscaping, there's sidewalks, there's asphalt, things like that. They are more likely to have detectable substances than areas with a thick foundation and gravel. So we have focused on those areas to date. And because we're more likely to find something there, and those soils are generally representative of the site as a whole. And lastly, our most important focus is the health and safety of the residents. That's why we're doing this survey. This is not a cleanup or mitigation site. It's based on the potential that there could be exposure to residents, and so we're assessing that site for gamma radiation using a scan to see if there's any direct exposure to humans and the environment beyond normal background levels. The way our work plan works is when a radiation measurement significantly higher than background is found, the location is documented and investigated further by conducting supplemental measurements. We use two other instruments held still over the spot for 30 minutes or more, and we determine what that radiation is, what the isotope is that's buried there, and whether it's naturally occurring. We confirm that elevated levels, any confirmed elevated levels that are not natural materials, result in notification of all the involved agencies that you've already heard from.
But let's back up. So
yes.
it involves notification to all the involved agencies. What about the notification to the community or to your government partners, i.e. me?
So it's coming up.
Got it.
Okay. So we coordinate on a response action, and as I'll get to in a moment, the deck marker is a good example of that particular process. But first, I want to mention that since our scan began on July 16th, we've used two different devices. One that's a towed array device that's over large flat areas, but we also have used walkover surveys for areas that we can't access with a vehicle. We're just about, we completed the towed array part. The analysis of that data is almost done, and as you heard earlier, we're close to 95% done with the walkover survey. We've just added the construction areas, the areas that are under construction on the site, and so that added a little bit more time, but we expect to be done this week. So we have worked with the Homeowners Association, and so you asked about notifications, and based on resident requests, we have expanded our original work plan. We've scanned other outdoor areas, common areas, outdoor private areas between residential units. We've scanned most of the slopes going down from the residential area, which is fill material that's uncovered, so it's very useful to scan that. We did the large soil pile at the southwestern edge of the parcel, again at residents' request. And to date, all of these have been completed, and we'll be offering windowsill dust testing as well to residents. So far we've detected 87 naturally occurring anomalies, slightly above background levels. So these are the naturally occurring ones. 42 of those were from the walkover survey and 45 from the towed array. That's brand new information that we'll put in our weekly update this week for the residents. We initiated the work plan protocol that I mentioned, and we identified all 87 of those as being potassium-40, which is a naturally occurring isotope. It's not a health risk. It's been around us since the solar system was formed, and it's in our bananas and Brazil nuts and in our bodies. But in addition, we detected one naval radium-containing deck marker, as you've heard about, on September 7th. The location was the bottom of the hill and in an undeveloped area. And as you also heard, the Navy's contractor removed that under CDPH observation. That was part of our notification process, and the response protocol is whenever something is a man-made substance, we will bring in the other agencies and the Navy contractor. We observed the entire process. The object was under about 10 inches of soil, and the hole and the soil that had been removed were scanned in order to demonstrate that there was no other contamination around it in the soil, just that the marker was removed. And as you've heard, radiation readings indicate that there would not have been any health or safety hazard to anyone who happened to be at that spot previously. Specifically about that, we were asked to provide a little information on the findings of that specific marker and the hazard. The surface level prior to removal of the marker was 0.09 millirem. I don't expect you to remember all these numbers, but as you heard, that it's about 1/15 of that amount in an hour is about 1/15 of what someone would get in a single dental x-ray. So someone would have had to sit on this spot for 15 hours just to get radiation equivalent to one dental x-ray. And anybody more than a meter away from this spot would not have received any exposure above background. So getting to your question, it took me a while. To keep residents informed in a timely manner, we provide weekly updates. We talk about the progress we've made as far as what we've surveyed and also the findings. We don't have all the data analyzed, so they're interim findings, and a final report will be available in late fall. But we, every step of the way, understand the residents' desire to be informed of our scanning, what we are up to, what we've found, and they have many questions related to radiations and its effect. And so to that end, we have led several homeowners association meetings. We began on July 5th, which was the day before we actually released the work plan publicly, because we wanted to prioritize this for the residents. They're our primary concern. We also most recently had one on September 19th, which was about the deck marker and explaining what it was, what we found, what it means, comparisons to the radiation that we all get every day around us. So that is how one of the ways we've been communicating with residents. We also have a website where all of our documents are posted and the progress reports. We have an email that we accept questions and respond to. And we continue to accept and respond input throughout, so we adjust our work plan based on some of that input, as we've already done. And we will be doing so as we start scanning parcel A2 in a short while. Lastly, I just wanted to say that we continue to coordinate with all the involved agencies, including your own San Francisco Department of Public Health and Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure, as well as the state and federal partners that you'll be hearing from here today.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Appreciate your presentation. Your presentation was mostly focused on parcel A1. I was wondering I'd like to hear your thoughts around the work plan for parcel G.
So our thoughts are very similar to what you've heard already, and we'll be hearing from EPA. The three regulatory agencies, us, EPA, and DTSC, coordinated on our comments, and the breadth of the comments that you just heard from Mr. Nazemi, we were part of that, and we're expecting, Navy has agreed to incorporate those comments in the work plan, and we're expecting to see the revised work plan at the end of the month. Right. So our role, these are two quite different situations, as I'm sure you've gathered. Parcel A was released a long time ago. There's people living there. Yes. There was no evidence of anything for cleanup. It's not a cleanup site. What we're doing is a health and safety scan, which we have done in other areas in order to see if there could be something there that could potentially expose residents. But at the rest of DoD sites and the rest of Hunters Point, we have the consultative role that I mentioned, where we look at the work plan, we look at the data. After the work plan's underway, we will do some of our own surveys or sampling if it's necessary.
Yes, thank you. I'm grateful for that. The California Department of Public Health has taken an interest and is taking an active role in assisting us as we continue to work to analyze and to get, or I should say, relax people's fears, people that are in the community's fears. It's a really important voice and perspective that people have been receptive to and opened to receive your feedback. specifically, I'd like you to take a couple minutes to talk to us about how does radioactivity really work? Now, please don't go into a full-on 40-minute lecture, but maybe you can just give us a primary level on how does radioactivity work.
Now, how did you know? I had a PowerPoint right here.
Oh.
Radiation, the concern with radiation is what's called ionizing radiation, and that can be things like cosmic rays. You've heard about transit, airline flights and being exposed. Those are cosmic rays, and the higher up in the atmosphere you go, you can get exposed to those. There's a number of natural isotopes, as I mentioned, potassium-40, uranium, radium, thorium. There's a lot of natural radioactive substances that people could potentially be exposed to in certain situations. And the concern is that the ionizing radiation can be particles or things like gamma rays or X-rays. And in any of those cases, ionizing means that they disrupt the electrons in a substance, which means it's been ionized. And for humans, that often can mean damage to DNA or other important molecules in our body, and mutations or cancer can result as one of the most common concerns with radiation.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't have any other questions at this time. I'll turn to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Doesn't look like there are. So I appreciate your presentation. Next, we will hear from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. I think we've got Enrique Manzanilla, John Chestnut, Lily Lee, Kelly Zito, Soledad Maria Calvino. Welcome back, Mr. Manzanilla.
Good afternoon, President Cohen, supervisors. Thank you for this opportunity to present to your meeting here today. I am the director of the Superfund Division at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's regional office here in San Francisco. I'm joined here by my colleagues.
Please, Mr. Manzanilla, please continue.
Sure. I'm joined here by my colleagues John Chestnut, who's our section manager, and Lily Lee, who is the remedial project manager for the Hunters Point site. The public's concerns are important to us. We take them seriously. As such, this site remains a high priority to EPA Region 9 and our new regional administrator, Mike Stoker. We have assembled a team of national experts on radiological cleanup to advise us and to provide technical expertise. All this in fulfillment of our oversight role, and that is our role here, is to oversee the work that the Navy is conducting. You have already heard from the Navy, who's the lead on the cleanup at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard Superfund site. For the entire site, over the past decades, EPA and the state of California have been overseeing the Navy's radiological work to ensure the safety of the surrounding community. Long-term radiological monitoring by various parties of dust, groundwater, ground surfaces, and fence lines have shown no exceedances of health-based standards, and third-party contractors routinely conduct in-person observations of the current radiological cleanup work. In response to the discoveries about the Tetra Tech data, EPA, as part of the cleanup team with the state and the Navy, has been actively involved in the development of the new work plans designed to address the uncertainty that now surrounds the site and to reassure the residents of their safety. We have stepped up our oversight activities at the site as well and plan to have staff on site during the planned retesting. We will also independently take and analyze samples alongside the Navy to ensure the integrity of the data and to restore public confidence in the cleanup. With regard to Parcel A, with the recent discovery of the naval deck marker at Parcel A and the previous issues we've discussed with you regarding Tetra Tech EC's work on the shipyard, we are aware of the deep concern that you and the community have about any potential impacts of the shipyard on the health of the current and future residents and workers. EPA was on site when the deck marker was unearthed, observed its removal, and analyzed the data collected to ensure that the public was not exposed to harmful levels of radiation from this object. EPA has carefully studied the potential health effects of the deck marker, and we do not believe that it would have posed a health risk.
Thank you. It's good to hear.
if it had been left in place. Radiation readings during and after removal indicated no residual contamination in the soil.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate the work of our colleagues at CDPH, the Department of Public Health, and their scans that discovered this. All the work that they have already finished across parcel A1 does not show radiological exposures to the public. When they finish the work they have already started, EPA, CDPH, the California Department of Toxic Substance Control, DTSC, and the Navy will evaluate the results and discuss any follow-up scanning or testing efforts with the city and parcel A residents. As we have stated before, the concerns we have about Tetra Tech EC Incorporated would not impact the health of the current residents in Parcel A or the surrounding community. The areas under question are enclosed under protective covers or inside locked buildings in the secured parts of the site. Fence line monitoring continues to demonstrate that contamination is not moving into the surrounding community. For the other parts of the site outside of Parcel A, due to the degree of potential data qualification and falsification concerns, EPA and the Navy and our state regulatory partners agree that comprehensive retesting is necessary before any new parcel transfers proceed. If retesting finds contamination, then the Navy must clean up the area until it is safe enough to transfer. EPA, the Navy, and the other regulators have carefully analyzed retesting approaches. We have listened closely to community input, both at many community meetings and from written comments. EPA appreciates the Navy's publicly stated agreements to implement the regulators' recommendations, which provides a plan that protects public health and the environment while moving expeditiously to get the answers we all want as soon as possible. We look forward to reviewing the revised work plan closely as soon as we receive it. Together with my state regulatory partners, we commit to have our technical experts monitor this rework every step of the way to ensure the safety of future residents and workers. We understand, in closing, we understand this community has had a cloud of uncertainty hanging over its head for far too long. We all want the retesting to start as soon as possible. Only with retesting can we finally know the facts about the extent of any potential contamination and begin cleanup, if needed, right away. Again, I appreciate the Navy's movement forward toward these important steps. This urgency must be balanced with the need for a careful and transparent review of the work plan by both the community and the regulatory agencies to make sure we are moving forward responsibly and efficiently to protect public health. To ensure continued transparency throughout this process, we at EPA have committed to attend the Bayview Hunters Point Mayor's Citizen Advisory Committee meetings and provide regular updates on our progress. We also regularly meet with local, federal elected officials to update the community's representatives on our work at the site. We continue to direct EPA's resources to Hunters Point so our team of technical experts can focus our attention on this community. We are committed to working hard together with the Navy and our state regulatory partners and your departments to develop plans that will ensure the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard is cleaned and safe for the community. Again, I thank you for your invitation. I look forward to your questions, and I might ask Lily and John to help me with some of your questions.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think your presentation was clean and straightforward, and you didn't hide behind any technical words or terms. I appreciate you for using everyday terminology. My main question is, what are the next steps that for your agency in relationship to the work plan and the monitoring process?
Right.
I'm under the impression that your comments are reflected in that 30 pages of comments back to the Navy. I think
That's right.
The regulators...
We gave them extensive comments last August, mid-August, on the work plan that they submitted for public review and agency review last June. So there was quite extensive. Pardon me?
They haven't changed.
Our comments have not changed. We stand by those comments. So the same comments we provided to the Navy last March, if I believe.
So that's a long time ago. So I guess my question is, for what reason do you believe that work plan hasn't reflected the comments that you've given?
We believe,
last
based
year?
on the statements that the Navy has made over the past last few weeks, that to the public, that they are incorporating the comments that the regulatory agencies, including EPA, have provided them. So we are very hopeful in getting a work plan from them, I believe by the end of this month, around the end of this month, that reflects the comments that both EPA and the state of California provided to the Navy.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time. And the last folks that we will hear from a presentation from is from the department, our own Department of Public Health. Tomas Aragon and Amy Brownell will be here making a short presentation, and then we can go to public comment.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tomas.
Thank you very much for inviting us to speak. My name is Dr. Tomas Aragon. I'm here with Amy Brownell, who's our environmental engineer, who's been working on this project for over 25 years. I am the health officer of San Francisco and the director of the Population Health Division. As health officer, my job and responsibility are to protect and promote the health and well-being for all in San Francisco. There is nothing more important to me than the health and safety of everyone in the city, but especially for our communities that have suffered from historical injustices and health disparities. I want to acknowledge and thank the community residents and environmental justice advocates for their compassion and commitment to equity and dignity for the community. I have learned so much from their collective wisdom, lived experience, expertise, and advocacy. As the health officer, I stand with the community and fully support the California Department of Public Health radiation scans to ensure the health and safety for Parcel A residents. We not only want to ensure safety, but we want the Parcel A residents to feel safe. Unfortunately, the radium deck marker finding was upsetting to all of us. We understand everyone's concern. We hired an independent technical expert. You've already heard those conclusions, so I won't repeat it here. The bottom line is that based on all the information that we have, we believe that Parcel A is safe. What are we doing to get better at serving the community around these issues? We are reassigning staff to strengthen our partnership with existing community residents and environmental justice programs in the neighborhood so we can set a common agenda and continue to move on the other environmental justice issues that concern the neighborhood. And we are strengthening our community outreach. I want to just summarize really quick. You've already heard the roles of the other agencies. San Francisco Department of Public Health's role is similar in some sense. We're local. We provide oversight. We have an engineer that reviews the plans, reviews the data. We hire consultants to help us. We're an extra pair of eyes. And you've heard how this is playing out, for example, with Parcel G and also with Parcel A. One important thing to realize about Parcel A is that even though Parcel A was transferred in 2004, that if any issue comes up, the Navy still has the responsibility to work with the other regulators to make sure that things get taken care of. And so this continues on in perpetuity into the future, and so that's very important for us to realize. Just because the land has been transferred over doesn't mean that the responsibility of the Navy and the other regulators go away. They're still going to be with us should we discover anything into the future. And so our key role right now is really working with the community and help to communicate all of these complex concepts to the community. Even though, for example, myself, even though I have a lot of medical training and public health training, a lot of this stuff, especially around radiation, can be confusing. And so we're working with the community to get the word out so they feel safe in their community. So with that, I don't have any additional comments.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just do have one particular question. This has to do with the work plan. What would be our department's role in providing the feedback, but more importantly, communicating to the neighbors why there's a work plan, what it hopes to accomplish, why people should be paying attention, the importance of this work plan related to Parcel G?
So we independently review the work plan separate from EPA. And so then we also provided our comments based on the consultants that we hire. We have our own health physicists to review everything. And then right now we're deep into planning on how we're going to reach out to the community. We're going to develop a website. We're developing materials. We want to make sure that the community not only learns about what's happening in the shipyard, but that they're also aware of the other services that the health department makes available in the community around all health issues.
I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you for acknowledging the role of the residents and the community environmentalists and the advocates, and that they've played. Sometimes when we were not paying attention, they were still there. I'm grateful for that. Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I don't see my colleagues having any questions. So we are going to close out this portion of the hearing. What I'd like to do at this time is just want to take a moment and say thank you to all the people that came to participate in this hearing and that have traveled. Many of the residents the representatives from the Navy traveled from San Diego. Other folks traveled down from Sacramento. I'm grateful for your time and your commitment. What I'd like to do is to begin to institutionalize these kinds of updates maybe every 3 months so that we can keep a better record and just stay in touch with the happenings of the shipyard and what's going on. I think things are moving very quickly now, and I just want to be able to stay on top of the changes. I'm excited to learn that the work plan is going to be finalized and publicly released at the end of this month. I look forward to taking a look at what the proposal will be. Madam Chair, if we can close out, I think we could then go to public comment.
All right, so we'll go to public comment for item 14. Any members of the public who wish to speak, please come on up.
Ready?
Yes.
Action. Begin. News break. Breaking news. I just happened to come here. I'm telling you. First of all, I want to thank you, President Cohen, for holding these meetings. I appreciate your asking these entities, these questions. But I'm appalled. See, y'all, because I've been around some 20 years, y'all, and videotaping it in the Hunters Point Bayview. And here we are in 2018. What does this mean? Well, let me look at first of all, I'm not here to criticize. I'm like y'all, I'm here to analyze for my community and my family. My name is A. Shaw. I'm on the case. I know all the players from back then and these new players here and all you city government agencies. Let me look at, we got the Navy. We got the EPA. I'm ACE. And then we got the state. I know a lot about what's going on here in the Department of Public here. So all you players, movers and policymakers, let me tell you something. This is 2018, and we're going into 2019. And my name is Ace. I'm on the case. I want to know we're going to try to wipe it clean. I'm dealing with the federal government, the EPA, the state, and the city and county. We don't have a chance unless you participate us in your overall game that you got in the work plan. Back where I come from, the Fillmore, they used to call it the master plan. Well, we failed there because we wasn't at the table. But right now, God is able. We're going to be at the table. Because I don't know what y'all talking about, community input and trying to do all this. It didn't mean nothing. Look what we got going on right here. You got me talking to you like this. Ain't no way in hell, if you wasn't doing wrong, you wouldn't even listen to this. But I'm putting it all in my song about the Southeast. This is appalling. Appalling.
Thank you. Next speaker.
To the Black community who...
Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Castleman. I'm an attorney with the Environmental Law and Justice Clinic at Golden Gate University School of Law. We represent Green Action for Health and Environmental Justice, and we have been involved in the cleanup for a number of years, a lot of years. I heard Ms. Ostrowski say that the plan for Parcel G will be comprehensive. That is simply not true. The plan that we have seen so far is nowhere near comprehensive. Unless the Navy has changed its tune in the past week or 10 days, they intend to survey much less than the entire Parcel G. Let me give you an example of why you need to be very, very careful about listening to what these people say, because they will tell you that they're going to sample 100% of the trench units. Sounds good, doesn't it? What they don't tell you is they are not going to sample 100% of the soil from those trench units. They intend to sample 1/3 of the soil from those trench units and let 2/3 go by. They say they can have a statistical guarantee that it's clean. Don't believe it. Give us an opportunity to give you a substantial presentation. We will fill you in on what they will not tell you because we have an advantage. We've actually talked to the people who did the fraud. None of these people have. Not one. We've talked to dozens and dozens of people who have been out there working at the shipyard. We know what happened. The Navy relies on
Yeah, your time's up. It was, finish your sentence. Finish your sentence. Please turn the
on
mic.
documents to determine if there were radiological impacts.
And what would you
we
be
are
relying
relying on people who actually did the dumping. I'm sorry, the fraudulent work. We've talked to those people. We have urged the Navy for 2 years to talk to those people.
All right,
we
thank
have
you.
urged the Navy for 2 years to conduct
Thank you.
a
You're pressing your luck. Your time's already up. I already gave you a sentence. Appreciate that. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to come and speak in public comment? All right. Looks like there's none, Madam Chair.
All right, this public comment is closed for item 14. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much, everyone. We will see you in a few months' time. We will notice when the next update hearing will be. Thank you.
Okay, so what would you like to do with the?
I would like to file this as heard.
Okay, all right, so there's a motion to file the hearing, and we can do that without objection. Okay, all right, okay, thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, are there any other items before us today?
For clarity, we're gonna file the item, not hear it in a few months.
We can hear something. I mean, we can keep it open and then just come back again in 3 months. That's fine with me. It's up to the
Would you like to
chair.
continue to call the chair then?
Yeah, we'll do it
Okay.
to the call of the
All
chair.
right, so
Thank
let's make a motion to rescind that vote. If we can do that without objection, and then let's make a motion to continue that hearing to the call of the chair. Can we do that without objection? Okay. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any other items before us today?
There's no further business.
Thank you. We are
Thank you.
adjourned.
SF Gov TV, San Francisco Government Television.